I think it's 10 o'clock. Is everybody ready to begin? Are we on, David? Okay. I'll start with the roll call. District 1.
Bruce Pratt.
District 2. District 3 is myself. District 4.
Cotw.
District 5.
Lynn Longmire.
District 6.
Alec Morrison.
District 7.
Dave Hudson.
District 8.
Michael Dunn.
District 9. District 10.
Brad Redden.
District 11. Thank you. And I'd like to introduce our new acting Chief Administrative Officer, Mr. Louis Cotw. Louis Cotino. Louis Cotw.
As long as you don't call me late. Yeah, nice to meet you all.
Yeah. Good. With respect to the approval of the agenda, any comments in that regard? Councillor Morrison?
I'd like to add an item, please, called treatment of correspondence.
Under new business?
It has been our practice to put petitions to the agenda at the end, but wherever it suits.
Madam Clerk, where would it go?
We did normally have a place at the end for lead addition, so that the business already on the agenda got addressed first before we lead addition.
So it would go after the last item on the agenda, is that what you're suggesting?
That would go to after number 7.
Okay. Councillor Bartow?
We could add Granville Ferry sidewalks winter maintenance.
Granville Ferry sidewalks? Any other comments? Deputy Warden?
Thank you very much. The number N in 5, new business, are we actually going to broach that subject?
I've spoken to Councillor Prout at some length about that prior to the meeting, and he wishes to bring that. He wishes to bring that motion, which I see it as his right to do if he wants to.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other comments? Councillor Connell?
I just have a comment because I was approached and asked, so I'm going to ask because I want to make sure my resident is watching the video, they get the answer. For 15 years, previous being on council, we never did roll call. What is the meaning of the roll call? Because my constituents said, can the warden look around and see that everyone's there? and I didn't disagree with it. I just didn't know if there was a reason. I watched other councils and they don't have roll call, and I just didn't know.
There's a policy, right, Madam Clerk?
It's in Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I believe there's also a policy that sets out the order of the agenda. That I believe the roll call is on that in our policy. Can someone help me out? I'm going by memory, which might be incorrect.
I think that was an amendment to the policy that had that.
So it would form part of our policy now.
Yes.
So if we wanted to remove that, we'd have to change the policy.
The guy wanted to know why we had to do it. He
Okay.
thought it was very kindergartenish.
Deputy Warden?
Thank you. The reason we started that is because a few years ago we had a councillor go missing. And for some reason, this roll call business started again because of that. And that's why the roll call started. I almost thought it was vindictive when it started, but apparently it's part of a policy somewhere that we had never, it was a practice we had never gone through before that.
Well, if someone feels it's important enough to change the policy, then they're welcome to bring it up. Okay. Any other amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, then I'll ask for an approval of the agenda. Councillor LeBlanc. A second. Deputy Warden. Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Next is approval of the minutes from the December 8th, 2020 regular Committee of the Whole meeting. Are there any amendments to the minutes? I have one. I'll let someone else go first if they have any. On page 2 of 7, under the heading, the CAO and all staff left the meeting at 10:28 a.m., there's a large paragraph, the second paragraph under that heading. The second full line from the bottom, it's a recitation of me talking, and if you see the words "can agree to go in camera to hide legal fees to date," what I said was can't, C-A-N apostrophe T, agree to go in camera to hide legal fees to date. Are there any other amendments to the minutes of the meeting of December the 8th? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes as amended. Councillor Hudson, second. Councillor Connell, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Next is are the minutes of December the 11th, Committee of the Whole. Are there any amendments to the minutes? I have some. One. On page 7 of 12, second paragraph from the top of the page, it says, the CAO noted any document in the custody and control of the municipality is subject to the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy rules. For the record, the warden noted he disagreed with that. Well, what the CAO had said is that any document in the custody and control of the municipality was subject to Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy rules, and the council had to FOIPOP to see its own documents, is what he had said, and that is what I disagreed with. So I would add the words after the word rules, and council had to FOIPOP to see its own documents. Are there any other amendments to the minutes? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes as amended. All those in favor, or Councillor Longmire, you move that?
Yeah.
And a second, Deputy Warden. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion's carried. Next, we'll go to business arising from the minutes. The first is visit to Basin View Center as part of a workshop. And that is a report from staff and possibly Councillor Morrison. I think he brought that up. Would either Councillor Morrison or staff wish to speak to this item? Councillor Morrison?
Thank you. I've long advocated a visit to Basin View Center. Previous council had conducted one, and we've attempted for quite some time to have a workshop on Basin View Center. Now, allied to that, peripherally, we have correspondence from the YMCA asking for a meeting. So I would just like to explore the idea of a workshop on this, and we could visit the facilities at that time. And I'm cognizant of the fact that we have workshops scheduled up to and including the end of the first week of February. Thank you.
My recollection is that when the Basin View issue was discussed in the past, we were waiting for some kind of an engineering report. Have we received that, Mr. McGuinness?
We just got the report late last week. I reviewed it with the JSL, the consultant, and I've asked them to prepare have an options analysis, so council can consider those things.
Sorry, what analysis?
An options analysis
Okay.
about how we can move forward, or just so we can bite into something when we have the workshop. And it was my interpretation that we would have all these discussions at a future workshop.
So you're suggesting, can you give us a date when we might get this information in so that we could
Well,
fix a date for the
I expect
workshop?
that-
And
I've got the engineer's report in terms of the structural analysis. I'm just waiting for a cover report, a one or two pager. I expect it this week. So if council wishes to set a workshop sometime in February, we'd be prepared to move forward from the staff perspective.
the visit to Basin View should likely happen before the workshop, I would think. Everybody agree with that? So I think we could probably set a date for the visit to Basin View, and maybe a potential date for a workshop sometime in, say, late February, because I know we have a number of workshops coming up. How does that sound to council? Any comments on that? Councillor Morrison, how do you feel about that?
I agree with you.
Yeah. So I guess first, let's see if we can find a date where it's convenient to have a visit to Basin View. Everybody got their books? Who would be, Mr. McGinnis, would you be kind of coordinating this?
Yes, and I was just going to make a suggestion. Council will have a better feel for it in terms of what the agenda would look like next Tuesday. But I anticipate any kind of walkthrough on Basin View would probably take about an hour. But it just allows us, we're here already. We don't have to council doesn't have to make a special trip down. Just a suggestion, if council feels that fitting into the agenda within Tuesday.
Well, we don't know what the agenda is like, and we've had some lengthy council meetings in the last little while, so I'm not adverse myself to making a special trip. So would someone like to suggest a time when we could do the visit? We would all attend. Is there a day of the week that's going to be better or worse? I'm looking for guidance. Councillor Morrison, can I pick on you to suggest a time?
I'll open the bidding. How about the 28th?
The January the 28th?
Yes.
What day is that?
Thursday.
Yeah, that works for me. I can move my check signing on to the Friday, I believe.
What staff would be required to be there? I can't be there in the morning.
The staff.
If it's a workshop.
Mr. McGinnis, who would you expect to see there?
Oh, myself and the CAO. In terms of the whole workshop?
No, we're just talking about the visit.
Yeah, just myself and the CAO.
Okay. Is that good for you? Yeah. What time? 10 o'clock maybe?
That's a good time.
10 o'clock on the 28th. Yes, Councillor Morrison?
Thank you. And jumping ahead just a little bit, but it is allied. We have an invitation for council to visit and tour the YMCA.
Right.
And I'm wondering if it might be possible to do that activity in connection with this
Oh,
visit.
I would expect we would. That was my thought.
Great, thank you.
So the only other thing we have to do is we have to ensure that that time works for the people at Basin View and at the YMCA. So who's going to have the job of checking with those people? Would you, Mr. McGinnis?
Yep.
And if you could just report at the latest by the council meeting next week.
I should know by today.
Now, as far as the workshop is concerned, we've got a number of workshops coming up. Sometime the week of February 22nd, would that be, give staff time to prepare? Does that work for you, Councillor Morrison?
Yes, thank you.
So I've seen, Mr. McGuinness, I've seen the engineering report that was done in March 2020. I don't know if all of the new councillors have seen that. Have they, the new councillors?
I don't know, but we can prepare a package that consists of, they presented an executive summary, there's a very extensive report that's in behind that, and then we would layer, I think, the other 3 reports we've had since in terms of pool investigation, foundation investigations, and the last one would be the structural investigation. I would update my summary that was presented, I believe, at December Council to include the new information that we've now got, and we'd have that as a package for the workshop.
Okay.
There is the large summary with the executive report is in your SharePoint folder, your e-council folder. There's lots of information. You should go in there and look through it. So there's the large, the really big report, and also the smaller executive summary report.
So I'm going to suggest Wednesday the 24th of February at 10 o'clock for the workshop. Now, we're going to discuss later in the meeting about the availability of the Bridgetown Legion for our meetings, and so possibly this workshop would take place there, but we'll deal with that perhaps after we get a report later on with respect to that issue. Is there anything else on the item visit to Basin View Center as part of workshop and the Fundy YMCA invitation? Is there anything else on that? Okay, then we'll move along. The next is remuneration for warden, deputy warden, and councillors policy.
Sorry.
Oh, yes, Councillor Morrison?
I think we need to take action on the invitation by Yvonne Smith.
So I guess we should have a motion to recommend to council that we do this? With respect to the visit to Basin View, and do we have to formalize that with a recommendation to council?
Warden Parrish, if I could, if I could indulge, I also received an invitation from her for a meeting. Why don't you allow me to, I guess, meet with her, and I'll give council an update on what it is she's looking for, and then you can decide whether want to engage her at a committee of the whole meeting, or individually or personally. But I think best for us to and let me just meet with her, see what she's asking or what she's concerned about, because obviously there's going to be a few issues around this building that we're going to be having conversations on. So I think if it's okay with you, Warden Parrish, and council, let me meet with her first and see what it is she's looking to meet with council.
Well, we can still have the workshop late in February. You will have met with her by then,
yes,
I would think.
I intend, as Councillor Morrison has just mentioned, I think just to say to acknowledge we've received a letter and that I'm starting the conversation with her.
Can we have that discussion when that item comes up on the agenda, please?
Okay. So let's. I was dealing with those two together, actually, the YMCA invitation, and we were, the invitation is to come and visit the Y, as I remember it. To meet formally through a phone call or Microsoft Teams meeting, the chance to discuss as recently announced. So the CAO is going to meet with her. We've got a workshop set for the 24th of February. My question, Madam Clerk, is if we need to have a motion to confirm that, to recommend to council that we have the workshop on the 24th.
No, you can set a date.
We can just set a date for it. Okay.
Sorry,
Councilor Morrison?
I'm a bit confused. We are going to meet at 10 a.m. at Basin View Center on the 28th.
On the 28th of January.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
At that time, is it our intention to go into the YMCA part of the building or not?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, then, we will have to have some sort of communication with the YMCA.
Right.
Perhaps the CAO in his conversation could mention that date.
Right. I think that's what the CAO is suggesting, that he would meet with Ms. Smith or discuss with her and confirm. And I did say that both the YMCA and the people at Basin View would have to confirm that that's a good day for our visit. Right.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Councilor Connell?
But that's just a walkthrough. We're not getting into big discussions.
That's my understanding.
Nothing else. That's just a walkthrough.
Yeah, that's my discussion. The discussion will be at the workshop.
Right.
Anything else on that before we move to the next item then? So again, the next item is remuneration for warden, deputy warden, and councilor's policy. This is something that I put on the agenda some time ago, and it came up with the fact of my remuneration, and I'm not entitled to pension benefits, and the policy seemed to be unclear. So I will simply just ask for a staff report, if I can, with respect to that issue. Ms. Campbell?
I could give you a verbal report right now, which would be short-circuit.
Well, sure.
I believe that the portion of your questioning, Mr. Warden, was in regards to what was in the brackets, in regards to an instrument needing to be set up, a tax-free savings account or something.
Right.
That was merely suggested wording at the time that got adopted as part of the amendment when that was added. It is not a requirement under CRA. In fact, the county is not able to do a direct deposit into a tax-free savings account,
Right.
any such thing. So that could be struck if it is committee of the whole and subsequently council's will to strike the portion that's in the brackets. We could certainly make that an amendment for next month's meeting.
Sure. If you would bring forward an amendment to the policy at the next committee of the whole, that would be great.
I would add that that portion of pension equivalent is a taxable benefit, and it has been since its incorporation.
Right. Right. So I will ask for a motion that the amendment to this policy come forward at the next committee of the whole meeting. Would someone like to make that motion? Councilor Longmire, second. Deputy Warden. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion's carried. The next item is directions to the CAO. This is again something that I had put on in the past, and I am withdrawing that. We don't need to pursue that at this time. The next item is the response from the CAO to warden redirections to CAO, and that was a document that was circulated by the former CAO, and I would suggest we just receive that for information at this point in time. Would anyone like to make that motion? Deputy Warden, second.
Just excuse me.
Yeah?
You don't have that document in front of you on this agenda, so you can't receive it for information here.
It was, we've all seen it.
It was circulated at a council meeting. You are right now in committee of the whole.
So what's the procedure then, do you think?
If you wish to add it as business arising from the minutes at next week's council, you can receive it for information. But you have to conduct council business at council and committee of the whole business at committee of the whole.
Should it be a notice of motion?
This says that it comes from the committee of the whole meeting.
Was it the committee of the whole?
On the, see, on the response from CAO to warden redirections, it says it's from the committee of the whole meeting on the 11th.
No, it doesn't.
It was, yes, it was. It was on the December, you're right, December was a confusing month. It was on December Committee of the Whole, and it didn't get addressed on the first day of Committee of the Whole. It got moved to the second day of
Right.
Committee of the Whole. Just to look through the minutes and see what the minutes say.
I didn't see anything in the minutes about it. I didn't see it when I looked for it, Carolyn.
It was on page 16 and 99 in the minutes. Right, so that would have, directions to the CAO was page 412 of those December 11th minutes, the second item there. So the directions to CAO was an item, and then his response was on that agenda, yes, and it was deferred.
So we can receive it for information now then in this Committee of the Whole?
I don't know if you have to do anything.
Well, we don't have to do anything then.
I don't know.
Well, can we just pass it? Take it off the agenda?
You can just receive it for information.
Receive it for
Yeah.
information, okay. So Deputy Warden, you motion to receive it for information, second. Councillor Longmire, is there any discussion about receiving that for information? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Under new business, the first is the Fundy YMCA invitation, which I believe we've already dealt with. Councillor Morrison, have we dealt with that to your satisfaction?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Next is the Audit Committee policy amend, and that's staff. Is there a staff going to speak to that? Ms. Campbell?
This was an oversight for an omission from the audit committee policy that was pointed out at one of our previous meetings when we did our annual review of the hospitality policy. It outlined the duty of the audit committee, and it was noted that an amendment should be made to this policy so that we track it for the audit committee.
It's on page 28 of 99 is the recommended action. Would someone like to move that, and then we can discuss it? Councillor Redden, move the recommended action is that the 7-day notice be given for Municipal Council to amend AM 1.3.5.1 Audit Committee Policy by adding Section 3 bracket I bracket, which reads, reviewing the hospitality annual summary report by October 31st of each year. So it's moved by Councillor Redden. Is there a seconder to that? Deputy Warden, is there any discussion? All those, okay, I'll call for the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Next is the NCS Managed Services Open Access Network letter. Councillor Bartow, I think you brought that forward. Would you like to speak to that, or is there a motion?
I was sent some information and with a proposal for managing services. I think it's an interesting proposal. NCS has got some a track record because they're actually doing the same thing for Cotw County now. I think that we should consider that. You know, we may want to put it out for proposals or whatever at some point. I'm not saying to take one person's proposal and adopt it. I think it bears consideration and that we should forward that for discussions in the workshop on the date would that be? 20. Not sure if we can. I guess the mainland telecom workshop is something a little different than the existing.
That's on February the 2nd.
Or would that be tied together?
So you're suggesting that you'd like this letter from NCS to be included in the material for the workshop on the Internet matters on February the 2nd?
I think for the completion of the project and make it all finalized, so it's a working system, we need to address those issues like that. And I think it may be an appropriate time on the 2nd if we can, I'm going to make a motion to add that to our agenda for that workshop.
So your motion is to add this letter to the agenda for the February 2nd workshop on the Internet. Is that what you're moving?
I think that would probably be the best place to start. I don't think that we need to take the council's committee of the whole's time to discuss it at this point. It may be too early. I just wanted to get it on the list of information. I'm not sure, do we want to receive it for use in or forward it to? I'm not sure the exact wording I should use for that.
It's your motion.
Yeah.
Oh, Councilor LeBlanc, sorry.
On February 2nd, my understanding is that we are doing mainland telecom workshop. This is, I agree that the Councilor Cotw should have this put with and we should be another workshop on our own system, because this has nothing to do, as far as I'm concerned, with the mainland. So I don't know if we're going to do like a morning workshop on mainland and then do an afternoon workshop on our internet, because this is he's discussing this for our internet.
You're absolutely right. I completely agree with you.
So,
that was the understanding, but in a discussion with the CAO this morning, I think he suggested that we might put the two together. Would you like to speak to that?
Yes, Warden, through you to Council. I was going to wait for my turn to speak about workshops and and committee of the whole meetings. I'm not accustomed to workshops. I understand that the council, when you go into workshops, you keep these meetings confidential. They really should be public meetings. Now, there's always a good reason to go in camera on certain issues and have a closed meeting. But by and large, I think what you've called workshops currently, and there's 3 of them currently, and now we're talking about others being added on, say, for example, Basin View. These should all be special committee of the whole meetings. Or you bring it at committee of the whole, and then that way the public gets to understand the issues. And so, since we're having these workshops, and it really is an education for members of council, it is probably a good time to also open those meetings so that the public get a good understanding of all of the major projects that we have on hand. And if there's any litigious matters or any legal matters that have to be discussed in camera, then those can legitimately be discussed in that forum. But when we do these things, and there's a perception, I think, that something, that you don't want the public to know what's going on. And I'm going to work with senior staff on probably a better process than workshops, because this is how we can get ourselves, in trouble. And I just want to be sure that. So, for example, the mainland, the one that's tied in with the mainland north, the one that just came up, NCS, that should all be discussed in an open forum, whether it's a special committee of the whole meeting or we call them something different, because I have to understand the nuance of what workshop means to us. And I'm sorry, I should have been prepared to talk about what a workshop actually entails. But my understanding from just a cursory discussion with senior staff, one of the members of senior staff yesterday, is that workshops are supposed to be in camera and not open to the public. So If you would give me some time, a couple of days after I've met with my senior staff, to come back and talk about a better process for these types of things. And it might very well be that it just becomes part of our committee of the whole meetings, where it's dealt, openly on a go-forward basis. Not right now. We've got some things established and they're big pieces, and I would agree that they should be dealt separately. But whether we have them just closed workshops is a question. I think Warden Farish, I think I'll have to come back to you and to council on that. And if I get your permission, council, to explore some better opportunities for being a little more transparent, we might save ourselves some grief down the road.
Thank you. Just a sec, I want to keep addressing the point that Councilor LeBlanc brought up, because she's correct. When we set the workshop, it was for the mainland telecom. It was what we styled it. Now, I don't know if that's completely described what it's about, which is what I'd like to discuss. That's the way we described it. Now, that is the only relationship we have with mainland telecom at the moment is litigation. So I would think we couldn't do that in open session very easily. The other issue is the internet project that we're rolling out throughout the county. And so I guess the question I want to explore with council is whether we want to do both of those in one workshop, or whether we want to just keep the workshop we've already scheduled at mainland telecom, or whether and have a separate workshop for our internet project, which is, I think, the point you raised, Councilor LeBlanc, right? So could I have a discussion on that? I think I'll go to the Deputy Warden.
Thank you very much. The workshop that we had lined up as well was to deal with mainland. That's our litigation part of that, as you just said. And I can understand that could be done in a workshop to find out where we're at. There's a lot of probably sensitive information with legal fees and one thing and another going to come out of that. But with NCS, we already, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we already have a contract with Seaside Communication that is going to deliver our product once the internet build is done.
If I could interrupt you, and I'm sorry, I just want to have a discussion on whether we should have two separate workshops, one for our...
That's the point I'm getting.
Okay.
Sir, thank you. So I do believe that the mainland should be a workshop where we're going to discuss finances, legal fees, and one thing and another. That's the mainland.
Yeah.
That's completely different than the internet, because
right.
Mainland has nothing to do with internet. So that's got to be a separate, that could be a workshop.
Okay.
If we want to have a conversation, as Mr. Cotw was saying, about our internet bill and NCS or Seaside, that's a separate entity. That's got to be a separate meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Bartow?
I think that was what I was trying to say, and maybe I was stumbling over my words a little bit, was that, and I didn't say to add to, I said, should we consider adding it to a workshop? I was in a discussion phase, not in a motion phase. And it is a separate issue, but it's kind of tailing off from that. So just so that we don't cloud the issues, I would remove that scenario, and we would need a workshop or a special committee of the whole meeting to deal with that. I think it's something that maybe we should discuss that and move that forward to the February committee of the whole meeting as an item, and maybe
This letter you're talking about, move it to the February committee of the whole?
Yeah.
Okay.
Give council a chance to digest that, and our new acting CAO a chance to digest it, and maybe we can move forward a little more efficiently instead of trying to introduce it too quickly into the process. Now, I think it's something that needs to be done soon, because the backbone of the internet is being installed, the hookups are going to be done. Managing that whole package and how the county does it should be in place sooner than later. So we should know what we're doing to go forward, because it seems like we've just been doing piecemeal, doing this and then backing off on that, and doing this. It was mainland, now it's seaside, now it's like, I think we need to congeal the whole package. And maybe I wasn't prepared to make a formal motion and as to how we move forward on that. We could set a date today if we want, or we could just add it to the next committee of the whole for discussion.
Is there a motion on the floor, Madam Clerk?
No.
Not yet.
Councillor Cotw, did you want to say something?
I thought the workshop was on our internet. As far as litigation to deal with the previous builders, to me, is just a very short, short conversation on how we're going to deal with this. It's all the lawyers going to deal with that, stuff like that. I don't want to know the nitty-gritty of all that. I thought the workshop was on our internet because I've had professional people tell me that the internet we're having built today, and this confirms it, it says this cannot adequately supply everyone in our county. But the previous council has put it out there that every constituent in our county is going to be eligible for high-speed internet. I'm getting phone calls and emails every day on update on the internet. I thought that was the workshop we were having on, was to see how it's working, how they're doing, where it is, you know, that type of information. Any workshop I've ever been involved in, we didn't talk money. We talked direction of what we were going to do, what was our options, you know, stuff like that. As far as doing a workshop on litigation, I'm not a lawyer. Why am I going to say where we should go in the direction of litigation? Either I vote for it to keep going with the report I get from the solicitors, or I vote against it. A workshop, in my mind, is to look at the project, look at the ups and downs of it, and to see if we're going to go forward or backwards. That's a workshop in my mind.
Councillor Morrison?
Thank you. I hope I'm not as confused as I think I am. Do we not now have contracts for all phases of our internet project?
Mr. McGinnis would probably answer that better than I would.
For the fiber, we have a contract for that installation, and for the operation of the fiber portion, we have a contract with Seaside. At the staff level with the acting CAO to dig into that a little more too. My understanding is where the fiber ends, we will be, the county has already bought the towers through gas tax that would provide, I'll call it line of sight, Wi-Fi signal, whatever the signal is, I'm not an expert, to those people where fiber can't reach. Whether 100% of the community is going to get covered, I'd have to look at that again. But my understanding is the original intent of the internet project was a combination of the two. Fiber to as far as we can get, and then line of sight from there. Because the fiber would connect to the tower and the line of sight, and that would broadcast it to those more remote areas or lower density areas.
Thank you. My purpose in asking the question is, if we have those contracts, and we do have those contracts, the proposal from NCS says, in effect, abrogate what you have now and let us take it over. And if Johnny Smith next week sends us a proposal, what do we do? I'm not sure if if we want to take the time now to delve into the intricacies of this, but if we do indeed have agreements, then what we have here is a proposal that we break our agreements and go with another firm. Is that a correct interpretation?
Well, I don't know if that's accurate or not, but right now we're just trying to figure out if we're going to have one workshop or two, whether we're going to have one on the mainland telecom litigation and a separate one on our internet project. That's basically where we are at the moment. Mr. CAO?
Warden Parrish, through you to the council, that's the conversation actually that, as I'm trying to get my arms around these projects that we have in the municipality, I've been meeting with staff, and yesterday we met on this particular project. And what it is, it's become clear to me that we need to have, and this is why I said we need to start having these discussions in a concerted manner. So what you need to know, and what I'm sure the public needs to know, and this is why I'm suggesting open meetings instead of these workshops. What you need to know is, where did we start and where are we now? So, you know, and as Councillor Morrison has pointed out, you know, what are the things that we have agreed to this point? You're going to get all of these companies that they're going to be approaching you because they want to, you know, if they know that every time they raise something, it's going to start somebody else spinning on something, then we'll be here entertaining all kinds of requests. I think allow us to have, you know, call it a workshop for now, because that's what we've called it, a workshop on the internet. And, you know, to speak to Councillor Connell, I'm going to get you guys wrong here one of these days, but let's just have a conversation on what it is, and then leave the litigation matters, you know, with the CAO and legal counsel, and I'll bring you up to speed on those issues in a proper forum. I think as soon as we start getting into, you know, these kinds of things where everybody should be brought up to speed on what the projects are. Let's just talk about what it is, where we are, how much of it is installed, what's left to be installed, what's fiber, what's dark fiber, what's lighted fiber, you know, how do these people, because these are all technical terms that can be simplified for council, and then you can explain to your constituents, or if they're watching a copy of the proceedings, they understand, here's where it's at. There's a litigious issue or a litigation on another issue that they're dealing with, and it's got nothing to do with when am I going to see internet in my community. And then we also talked about coverage. I asked the director actually I asked the proponent, who's the engineer, our engineer on the ground. It's Hatch. See, that's another thing that you may or may not know about who our engineer is on the project, and try to get a sense of is how much of the county is covered. And so all of those things we can bring to you and show you how much is covered, you know, what is it that you've signed up for, and then what can other companies add, you know. So through, as Director Steve pointed out, we have towers that are going to go up for line of sight. So where are the towers going? Have decisions been made on that? And what does that mean when we install cell towers? Not cell towers, towers to transmit signals. But there's a bigger conversation, and we can have it. We're having it now, which we shouldn't be. Sorry, Madam Clerk, but I simply wanted to say that this is why, when we're talking about this, let's just leave it. I understand where council is coming from. This, and as I can observe already, there are different understandings, and that's the reason why we have different understandings. I think we just need to bring it all together. Internet project, mainland is another issue, if you're okay.
So what I'm hearing the CAO say and Councillor Connell say is that what we've styled as mainland telecom as the workshop should really be an update on our internet project. Do we have some agreement on that, Councillor LeBlanc?
And I agree, however, I was thinking that we should add to that day our own internet And if there's any information for litigation that this council should know about, that the CAO has maybe collected to that time, he may be also, instead of removing one, he may be able to tell us some information. So I think we should just add to that day of February 2nd, our internet type of information, or where we're at, or...
So the, is there, I don't think there's a motion on the floor, so would you like to move that we add our internet project to the workshop on February 2nd?
I certainly would.
So I'll take that as a motion from Councillor LeBlanc. Is there a seconder to that? Councillor Barteau? We've already had a discussion on that. Would anyone else like to add to the discussion? If not, I'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. And Councillor Barteau, I assume that letter could be part of the package, the letter from NCS for discussion,
Yeah, just for further discussion.
a broad discussion on the whole internet project. Thank you for that.
So that is a recommendation.
A recommendation to council, yes. Next is the Bridgetown Community Recreation Association. Excuse me. This is a letter from Stephen Clayton, dated December the 16th. It's in your package at page 34.
I have to declare a conflict.
Okay.
What is the conflict?
For what reason? I need to know a reason.
Councillor Hudson,
Yes,
the clerk would like to know what the conflict is.
I'm involved in that association.
In what?
I'm involved with that association. I'm the treasurer for that association.
Oh, which one? The Bridgetown Community Recreation Association? Okay. Thank you. So this letter is asking for the association to receive the unused 2020 pool grant of $8,659. I'm not familiar with the background to this, and I would suggest we get a staff report to explain the background. Anybody want to make that motion? Or Councillor Connell?
Well, I'll make the motion, we get a staff report on what's left in that pot of money and where that pot of money is generated to in the town of Bridgetown.
Okay, do you want to just reflect again on the wording of the motion, if you're making the motion?
I'll make a motion that we get a staff report on the remainder of funding left in that pot of money and an overview of where the money is divided out in the town.
Get that, Madam Clerk?
Because my question, well...
Just a second, let's get the motion.
In the community of Bridgetown?
Is there a seconder to the motion to get the staff report? Deputy Warden? Discussion? Councillor Connell?
Because when I read this, the first thing I thought is, why is there money left over? If the taxes, if we gather the taxes to be given to Bridgetown, the community of Bridgetown, for their disposal, in what that tax is gathered for, in my mind, it should be at zero at the end of every year, because we gather those taxes for that. I don't understand how we collect taxes for a purpose and then hold taxes back.
Madam Ward, did you wish to make a comment in that regard?
Yeah, we generally
Can you speak up, please?
pass this grant out in total to the BCRA community for the pool in Bridgetown. This year, it didn't get sent out because it didn't open, the pool didn't open. So that's why the our recreation department did not issue the check to BCRA this year. So if council's so inclined, we can issue that
Okay.
check,
Thank you.
even though it didn't open the pool. because of.
Would anyone else like to speak on this rather than before I go back to Councillor Connell? Councillor Connell?
Well, I guess that's when I read it, that was my concern, is that maybe they didn't open, but if that money's collected for that issue, and they have, maybe they're gonna have more repairs because they didn't open last year, even if they try to open this year.
I assume that would be covered in the staff report that we've asked for in the
Right,
motion.
and that was my concern, is that why all of a sudden should we give it to the brink?
That's how it's
If the
funded.
pool needs it.
Is there any other discussion about the motion to have a staff report come back to us on this? Deputy Warden?
Thank you. Do we have the authority to flip that money around? That's
I assume
what I'm
the staff
looking for.
report would tell us. I mean,
Okay.
that's the point of the staff report. Any other comment on the motion to have a staff report on this request? Seeing none, I'll call for the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried.
When are we going to get that staff report back for next committee of the whole?
Yes, I would expect the next committee of the whole. Should that be in the motion?
It should.
Okay, so can we add that to the motion that it's for the next committee of the whole? Thank you for that. Next, we have 3 borrowing renewals.
You should bring Mr. Hudson back.
Oh, Mr. Hudson needs to be.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We have staff reports on the next 3 items on the agenda. The first is the Hillside Drive short-term borrowing renewal.
Recommended action. The Committee of the Whole recommend the Municipal Council to authorize the Warden and Clerk to sign the renewal of temporary borrowing resolution for the Hillside Drive water line addition.
So the Deputy Warden moves. Is there a seconder? Councillor Hudson. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion's carried. The next one is the temporary borrowing resolution for Gordonston. And there's a staff report on page 38 of 99. There's a draft recommended action there. Would someone like to move that?
The Committee of the Whole recommended to Municipal Council to authorize the Warden and Clerk to sign the renewal of temporary borrowing resolution for municipal land and buildings attached.
Is there a seconder to the motion? Councillor Morrison? Discussion?
Oh, discussion?
Hearing none, I'll call for the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion's carried. The next one is the temporary borrowing resolution for the internet short-term borrowing resolution, and that's on page 41.
41 on
Would the Deputy Warden like to move that?
Yeah, Committee of the Whole recommend to Municipal Council to authorize the Warden and Clerk to sign the amended loan note, facility number 4, with the Royal Bank of Canada, RBC, to renew short-term borrowing for the internet project attached.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Longmire? Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Next, new business H, COVID-19 and presenters. I believe that's Councillor LeBlanc.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I'd like to bring to the attention of our council and our community, our county, that we've been trying very hard to the proper things that need to be done during COVID time, and take direction from Dr. Strand and from the Premier on how we could do things. We are not out of the COVID. It's going to be a lot longer than we want, but it is what it is. And we have to take direction and we have to follow it. At the December 15th meeting of council, I was unaware that we were having 2 people from Halifax in our chamber. It was directed that the people from Central Zone stay in Central Zone and anybody else not go to Central Zone. So I was quite put out with the fact that I did not know at the time that these people were going to be here. Because I think I would have said, no, they can Zoom, they can call, they can do whatever. So to me that is a concern. It's a concern for, as far as I can see, everybody in this council. I have to deal with my aging mother and grandchildren and constituents and all of the above, and other people have different medical conditions that they have to deal with and they should be aware of, and we should be aware if we're going to be put into a situation that goes against what the province is giving it out. So, my opinion on this is that the fact from this day forth, everybody should know and try to follow the rules that are given to us. So I would like to place a motion that from this day forth, if there's any presenters coming outside of the county into our chambers, all council members should be aware of it. However, I expect that we will follow protocol so that we don't have to have any problems.
Is there a seconder to that motion? Councillor Cotw? If I could just explain the December 15th motion meeting. I did advise the clerk and the CAO at the time that we were having presenters coming from out of from Halifax. At the time, the protocol was that it was non-essential travel that was prohibited, not non-essential, not essential travel. So we checked here, and the lawyers in Halifax checked with their office and their office manager there about the definition of essential and non-essential travel, and for lawyers attending a meeting of council was determined that it was not non-essential travel. Non-essential travel is seeing friends, as I understand it, seeing friends, going shopping, that kind of thing. So the view was at the time that this was within the guidelines, both from the lawyer's point of view and from our point of view. Now I understand that, you know, we should have perhaps have notified not just the executive but also the councillors. I understand that, which I think is the thrust of your motion, really, that all the councillors should be advised. I would also say that limitation is no longer on. Right now, people can come back and forth from Halifax without an issue. In any event, I just wanted to clarify that for the record, and there's a motion on the table that council be advised if presenters are coming from outside the county. Is that the idea?
And go through COVID recommendations.
Yeah. Councillor Connell?
I'm going to be voting against the motion because we have people coming in out of our county. If it was outside of Nova Scotia, I could vote for it. Inside of our county, our restaurant alone has people in and out of Halifax and district on a steady basis. Our suppliers are all from Halifax. Our drivers are all from Halifax. I go into Halifax to get supplies, but I do my COVID thing. I walk, keep my hands sanitized, I keep my mask on, I talk to very few people, I get in and I get out. I cannot vote for something inside our county. It's not essential right now. The province has allowed in-province travel. and I could vote if it was somebody coming to our council chambers outside. But the amount of people, the amount of truck drivers alone, every 18-wheeler that comes into our county does not have to quarantine, no matter where they go. So you just think of every supply chain going that comes in and out of our county with no quarantine. To me, that is, I can't vote for it.
Councillor Morrison?
Thank you. Could I hear the motion again, please?
Yeah.
It was moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Prout, that from today, if any presenters are coming from outside of the county, all council members should be aware of it.
That's what I thought it said. It's confined to presenters coming to council. It doesn't deal with anybody else. Thank you.
Any other comments? Councillor Prout?
Thank you. I just would come back to the point that at the time, travel from the central region to other regions was limited. It was only under certain circumstances, and I'm getting your explanation this morning that it had been explored and deemed that it wasn't not
It wasn't,
essential.
yeah, it's a double negative.
Double negative sometimes. But that's not the case now. It may not be the case again, but strictly from Councillor LeBlanc's motion, I seconded it because it's my understanding, and I'll defer to Councillor LeBlanc, that it refers to times when parts of the province are told not to come out, not to travel to other areas for non-essential.
Would you like to make an amendment to the motion?
I would, if I'll make that amendment. I assumed that came from the intent of the original motion.
How are you amending the motion?
And
Are you adding or subtracting something?
I would add that, I would amend it to state that if we find ourselves in the future in a position where travel, even within our province, is, where travel within our province by members of any of the zones
is restricted,
that we should follow that protocol to the...
Is there a seconder to the amendment? Councillor LeBlanc? Any discussion on the amendment? Councillor Longmire?
Thank you. Should we not as well add screening to that motion, that if essential travelers, attendees to meetings such as this, be subject to the public health screening protocol? So if they're invited, right, or attending, that although we're being advised or made aware that they will be attending, that they should be subject to screening?
We could. I think that's implicit in the motion, but I thought Ms. Campbell had a comment to make. I'll come back to you, Ms. Longmire.
I might have some clarification that will help with the process if I
Sure.
We do have a policy in regard to COVID prevention, and the discussion's starting to get into the areas that are covered in our policy. So I think the crux of what you dealt with at the last meeting was the definition of essential and non-essential. It looks as if the province is going to do a clarification of the definition of essential and non-essential for the public health order. As that occurs, the policy will be brought forward for amendment accordingly.
Does that answer your question? We have a policy on that?
And it does provide for screening, which was done during.
If I might add?
Yes.
So prior to meetings, like you would have gotten last night, the screening questionnaire is sent out to all people that I know are going to be attending the meeting. You also have a second opportunity to read it when you sign into the meeting, so that's already in place. And we should be following what the province is telling us without having to be told to tell. To
Exactly.
follow what the province is.
Right. Would you like to read the amendment to the motion, and I'll call
I
for
will
the...
try to read the amendment to the motion. It was moved by Councillor Prout, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc, to amend the motion by adding that if we find ourselves in the future in a position where travel in the province or any zone is restricted, that we should follow that protocol.
I thought the purpose of the motion was to restrict the idea that councillors be notified only if there is a intra-provincial restriction. I didn't think the idea, I thought that was the point of the motion. I don't know if it's captured with that. Maybe I'm wrong.
The amendment, that wasn't
For the amendment, I mean.
I assumed it was in the original intent as well, but I just thought point of clarification.
The original intent. So I guess to clarify it, if there are no restrictions to move within the province, do we need to notify all the councillors that somebody's coming from within the province? That's the simple question. I don't understand where we are at the moment.
Warden, if I may, through you to the council, I was just given an email here, and Director Albert Dunphy can speak a little more to it. But this whole issue of meetings and committee meetings and engaging the public, one of his staff had contacted various municipal affairs and so on to try and get some reading on how meetings should be conducted. I promised him I would circulate it to the council, but since this is in discussion, why don't I circulate this to you? And then in the meanwhile, staff will re-examine our process, because I think, Albert, if you want to speak to what it is you were trying to achieve, it'll help educate the council, and I'll circulate this. It'll give you a sense of this discussion is taking place at several levels, on committees, in public hearings. How do the public get engaged in providing input, and COVID. So Albert, if you wouldn't mind doing that, and I'll circulate this.
I can give a brief introduction to what's being handed out there. It's focused and tailored around the section of public meetings, inviting the public, those kinds of things, and it's asking the questions in relation to the direction of the minister on a declared state of emergency, and what was passed out previously, which was a directive also applicable at municipalities. So what I'm looking
Mr. Dunphy, if you don't mind, as chair, I don't really think that this issue with respect to holding public hearings is thank you, directly on point with respect to the issue we're discussing at the moment. We're discussing presenters to council, which is different from a public hearing. And I do appreciate that we should have a discussion about public hearings, but I think I'll rule that out of order, that discussion at the moment. And the simple question is for presenters to council, which I think was Ms. LeBlanc's, Councillor LeBlanc's motion, and whether if we have restrictions within the province, councillors should be notified, which of course I have no difficulty with, but we currently have an amendment to the motion, and I didn't know if what you read out captured the intent of Councillor Prout's amendment. Can you read it again, maybe?
Do you want the first one? Do you want the original motion first?
Sure. Why don't we do that?
So the original motion, it was moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Prout, to recommend to municipal council that from today, if any presenters from outside of the county are coming to present, all council members should be aware of it. Change it, I was not English, sorry. The amendment was moved by Councillor Prout, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc, to add that if we find ourselves in the future in a position where travel in the province or any zone is restricted, that we should follow that protocol.
Did that capture the thrust of your...
Yes.
You think it did?
Like I said, that was what I assumed the original, I read that intent into the original motion, but it's for clarification. People were saying, no one from outside of, there's people coming in and out of the county all the time. I just believe that on the 15th, it was someone came from a zone that was, travel was restricted, and that...
I guess, can I ask both the mover and seconder for my own information? If there are no restrictions within the province with respect to travel, do you expect councillors to be notified if somebody's coming from outside the county?
No.
Can I ask that simple question, what the purpose of the motion is?
The purpose was that at the time we were restricted, and if we're not
No, I'm talking if
the
you...
answer is...
No, I'm saying if there's no restrictions.
You're correct.
Then there's no need to notify the councillors.
You're correct.
Okay, and is that...
I would say that's correct.
Okay. So I don't know if that's caught in the motion, but Councillor Sheridan?
So aren't we following policy anyway? Like, is this necessary? Because wouldn't we be following what our policy states? And would we be notified that if somebody were coming in? They wouldn't allow them to come in? I guess the simple motion would be just to let us know if presenters are coming, if we're not following protocol, I guess. Because we're following protocol and policy. To me, this is unnecessary, but that's just my opinion.
Well, we have an amendment on the floor, and I think we have to deal with it. And then after we deal with the amendment, we'll deal with the motion. So we've read the amendment. I think I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. I think hands up in favor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How did you vote? I'm sorry. I didn't see your hand up either way.
Oh, I did. Yeah.
You were for in favor of the amendment. So I think then it's 6-5 in favor. I think I better call for that. All those in favor of the amendment. I'll get to the motion in a minute. All those in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All those opposed, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the amendment is carried. So now I'll call for the motion. The motion as amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Councilor LeBlanc, I missed you on the first go-round. Are you for? You're obviously in favor of your motion. Mm-hmm. But I believe it's defeated 6-5. Okay, now where are we?
Bell Drive Street.
Bell Drive streetlight. There's a staff report on that. And that's at page 45. Sorry, Deputy Warden.
The recommended action is that the Committee of the Whole recommend to Council that staff proceed with contracting Black & McDonald to supply and install one 55-watt LED light fixture on an existing wooden utility pole as their proposal, number 21U-019, dated December 21st, 2020, for the price of $1,673 plus HST.
Is there a seconder to the motion? Councilor LeBlanc. Discussion? No discussion? Then I'll call for the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Next is the Margarettsville water supply update. And that's, I think, just for information of council, was it, Mr. McGuinness? Councilor McConnell, you do wish to make a comment?
Yes, I'd like to just recommend that for information.
Received for information. Is there a seconder to that? Deputy Warden? Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Next is the Queen Street Design Review. And there's a document in our package and a memo from Mr. McGinnis. Would you like to add to anything in your memo?
I would, just some orientation to the project itself. As probably repeating myself in terms of the report, the project was undertaken as what they call a shovel-ready in the event that additional COVID economic funding became available specific to these types of projects. Council approved the project so that we're ready to go if the funding is announced. On that, in a lot of circumstances, when these funds are announced, the province wants your application submitted sometimes within the same month they release the request. So I think it was very important to consider this. The circumstances in terms of Queen Street is they have some very, very aged infrastructure.
Sorry, I missed that.
They have some very, very old infrastructure underneath the street. And for those who have driven down Queen Street lately, the surface isn't in great shape either. But I wouldn't recommend resurfacing until we deal with the underground. So that's hence the scope of the project was both underground and surface. So what we have is a kind of a draft design package from the consultant that was awarded the contract through a request for proposals. And it gives us a couple of options in terms of surface treatment. And it's pretty straightforward surface treatment. There's not a lot of bells and whistles on it. Concrete sidewalks, curb and gutter, maybe some flower blocks, some additional trees. Nothing outstanding, but we are going to be looking at removing, again, those familiar with Queen Street, those restrictive barriers kind of halfway down the street. It's kind of disruptive for plowing purposes. Looking at turning radiuses, because we often have concerns with larger trucks turning down Queen Street, whether they're coming from the east or the west. But at the end of the day, right now, it's just ready to go in the event that grant funding becomes available. When that happens, the project would come back to council because they would have to approve our portion of the funding. If the funding is announced, we don't know what percentages would become available, but there are reserve funds available to address these type of projects within Bridgetown because of the transition money, the letter of intent money. There is a restriction on the letter of intent money. It cannot be used on water because that was not part of the consideration when Bridgetown was devolved to the county. So we'd have to put a funding package together for council to review. Thus, in terms of comments, open to any comments, but again, the whole package would come back to council for final approval when the project is being financially considered. But there's, as I said, there's nothing, unique about the surface treatment. There can be when we finally come to the short strokes of approving it. There are grant funds available for street beautification, but it's at the time the project moves forward. Whether we want to put in, for instance, some paving stone crosswalks, just to mark the crosswalk in terms of street beautification. Some different articulated street lights, for instance, but we can't apply for those grants until the project actually moves forward.
Well, thank you. As one of the councillors for Bridgetown, I certainly hope that some funding becomes available in the near future. That would be a wonderful, wonderful improvement to the main street of Bridgetown. Councillor Cotw?
And the only thing I would have to offer is that, and at the time, we'll probably get into a good discussion about it, is it's great to beautify, but when you beautify a surface which gets scraped by a blade, we had that problem in town of Middleton, and you can see what happened to the brick sidewalk. There's crosswalks. They got taken out, paved in. Money wasted.
Thank you. Any other, that was Deputy Warden?
Thank you. Yeah, that would be my only thing as well. When I look at this, I see a bunch of cement pavers, designed for the sidewalks and that, and knowing how well they stay and wear and got to be scraped off. And I know, a cement slab is much cheaper. Anyway, it's easier to get under the pavers if you got to do some work afterwards. So there's a point there to make. My biggest question, though, Steve, Mr. McGinnis, was the price there, tag at the end, that $765,910. We'll be looking for grants. There'll be some grants. That won't happen.
I don't see how we could fund it without grants.
Thank you.
Councilor Morrison?
Thank you. I usually try not to comment on projects that are in the districts of other councillors, but some here will remember that I've spoken a number of times about the condition of Queen Street. I think this is an excellent project that needs to be worked on there as an integral part of our county, and I do hope that the opportunity arises to move ahead.
Thank you. Any other comments? Do we need a motion to receive that for information? Would someone move to receive the report for information? Deputy Warden, second, Councillor Bartow. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those... Oh, Councillor Bartow?
So this is just a preliminary package, I guess.
Yes.
I see a lot lacking in detail and stuff, so...
Mr. McGinnis said it would come back to council.
That
if
would
we're
all
going
be
ahead.
brought forward at a later date before we made any decisions, I think.
All those in favor of receiving for information say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. Excuse me. Next is the Council and Committee of the Whole meeting location. Mr. McGinnis or CAO, would you like? Mr. McGinnis?
Warden, yeah, I'll turn it over to...
Mr. McGinnis?
Yeah.
Well, staff, the health and safety officer, myself, and our department admin assistant investigated 3 locations in Bridgetown. The Legion, the Fire Hall, and I'm trying to remember the name of the building on Queen Street. It's the, oh, help me.
Old church.
No, it's an old commercial. It's a former commercial building.
Yes.
Pardon me? No, on Queen Street.
Adaptations?
Adaptations, thank you. Adaptations was eliminated because there's too many posts in there. It's filled with concrete pillars. The fire hall is very, very tight to hold a meeting of this nature. And so we're recommending we move forward with the Bridgetown Legion. We met with their representative, quite prepared. We've booked a couple of dates already in anticipation of the discussion. If it doesn't go through, we can cancel those. But there's plenty of room there. And the 2 big things that I see is there's a door in and door out, which eliminates this need of 1 door, 1 out to follow those COVID protocols. But there's plenty of room. It's $50 an hour to rent. I would say just about every date that we put forward to them would be available. We have talked about the AV need for the meetings. They've said we can leave them set up as long as they don't have another booking in between our meetings. We can leave it set up, but I'll let the IT department wrangle that. If they want to leave it in place, they can. If they don't, they can set it up later. It's also our recommendation that it's available and quite suitable for workshops. We'll move into that process, or whatever they're going to be called in the future. I would recommend to council that after the conclusion of council meeting next Tuesday, we move to the Bridgetown Legion facility.
Thank you, Mr. McGinnis. Do we need a motion that we move there, Madam Clerk, do you think? Or it sounds like an executive decision more than a council decision, but... Mr. CO, do you think we need a motion for that?
No, well, direction is enough. I don't think this should work.
I saw that the workshop notices went out and they were location to be determined.
Right.
So maybe if you sent out new notices and said Bridgetown Legion, and then, now the council meeting will be here next week, and that hopefully will be our last meeting here, and in the future they'll be at the Bridgetown Legion, assuming it's satisfactory. Mr. McGinnis?
We did approach, just for pricing purposes, a couple of restaurant services to provide sandwiches. It has been the practice of, since I've been here, for council, we break for lunch and council's on their own. They go find their own lunch. But we do have that availability if council wants to pursue that. I'll review those prices with the CAO if council wants to pursue that. But the previous practice has been we break for lunch and everybody can go find their way to a lunch facility or bring their own or whatever.
I will say my own personal preference is to not have council and staff leave the building and go off for lunch and come back. I just as soon have a half-hour break and either brown bag it or maybe if we could get something available that we could purchase. That would be my preference rather than breaking in Bridgetown. The station is now open. But if we all descended on the station, I don't think we'd get back in an hour. So
There are probably more options available in Bridgetown right now than there are in Annapolis Royal.
There's more locations?
You've got the grocery store, you've got the Aroma Cafe, you've got the station, you've got Mama Sophia's Pizza, and you've got Tim Hortons.
Oh, for takeout. I was thinking of eating in. Yeah.
There are many more options.
Yeah, you could, before the meeting, you could go and pick up a sandwich at those locations if you wanted to. So I guess for the sake of the future, would anyone like to suggest that we break for an hour and people leave? My preference is that we arrange it so that we stay and people can brown bag it or bring their own lunch. Or would someone like to suggest that we be catered? I'm easy on it. Councillor Bartow?
With COVID restrictions still in place, and they will be for a while, maybe we could continue staying in the venue until those restrictions relax a little bit. I'm not sure if we should all be taken off and running around the community back in. Start setting a good example for...
Yeah, you're right. It would be better to stay in the building and bring our own lunch, I think. Councillor Connell?
I have no problem bringing my own lunch.
Yeah.
But I would like to see maybe coffee supply.
Yeah.
You know,
Coffee and water, yeah.
yeah, coffee and water with supply.
Sure.
Would be satisfactory.
Would that be available, Mr. McGinnis? Do you know?
We can make arrangements, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Warden, I have a question. You suggested that I could send out new workshop notices with the location on them. Did you want to wait until the CAO had suggested he was going to have discussions with senior staff and perhaps
Sure.
council on what we're calling them actually? If it's going to continue to be called a workshop?
Sure.
Wait till after that?
That's fine. We all have them in our calendar, and I think we know where we're going, so I think we can wait for that.
Thank you.
So do we need a motion to bring brown bags next month?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think we all know that we're on our own for lunch when we get to Bridgetown for the workshops and
Sounds good.
whatever.
If I forget mine, bring extra.
My old cooler I used to take.
Councillor Sheridan?
We'll have potluck.
The rules out completely that we can't use our chamber? That's not large enough? Is that?
That's my understanding. Would Mr. McGinnis like to speak to that?
We don't have the ability in terms of space, simple square footage and simple math, to have 10 people in there with social distancing. And the erection of barriers, the way I interpret them, it does not negate the need for social distancing. So, yeah, it's a tough room.
Okay, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the Bear River Greenhouse Extension. And
Recommended
that
action.
is,
A committee of the whole recommends the municipal council to extend the closing date referred to in the January 8, 2016 Bear River Greenhouse and Waterfronts Community Purchase and Sale Agreement from December 15, 2020 to March 31st, 2021.
is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Hudson? Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. And next is a motion, Councillor Prout, to rescind the motion to terminate the CAO, John Ferguson.
Yeah, would it be appropriate for the CAO and staff to be here for that discussion?
I think we can move ahead at this point to see if it gets on the floor. And if it's on the floor, then we'll make that determination.
Thank you, Warden. I've given this a lot of thought.
Councillor, you need to make the motion first.
I would move that we do rescind the motion 201215.03 to terminate former CAO John Ferguson.
Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor LeBlanc. I'm going to rule the motion out of order. I can tell you that Councillor Prout and I have discussed this beforehand, and I'm picking up Robert's Rules of Order, and it lists motions or actions that cannot be rescinded. And one that it lists is a motion that cannot be rescinded, or an action that cannot be rescinded, is when a person has been expelled from office and the person was present or has been officially notified of the action. Now, as we know, Mr. Ferguson was present at the time, and we know that he's been officially notified of the decision to terminate him as CAO. So as a result, I'm ruling the motion to be out of order.
I appeal from the decision of the chair.
Now, we've discussed this as well, and Councillor Prout wishes to appeal my ruling that his motion was out of order. Is there a seconder for the motion for the appeal? Is there a seconder for the motion to appeal? Councillor LeBlanc seconds that. Now, Robert's Rules of Order on the appeal indicates that each member of council can speak once on the appeal, and the chair can speak twice. So, would anyone like? And the issue is whether my ruling is correct or not, and it's not really to the substance of the motion, but whether my ruling should be appealed, that it's out of order. So, if someone would like to speak to whether my ruling is not correct, I invite any comments. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you. The last number of, well, ever since mid-October, we've been concerned with certain subjects, the substance of which has been made difficult by various preconceptions. We have made decisions, perhaps in haste, perhaps without proper information, perhaps, that have long-ranging, substantive, and personal consequences. Personally, I am in favor of as much discussion as is reasonable in the circumstances. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to discuss whether my ruling was accurate or not? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote on the appeal. Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor LeBlanc.
Thank you. Because of the situation of doing what was done, terminating the CAO, I thought there was clear direction of what needed to be done at the time. It was not completed at the time and not followed but what was supposed to be done by the appropriate people, which is the lawyers that have to deal with what was decided. So it has caused a lot of grief and has certainly not shown that we may have considered all of what was supposed to happen before the action was taken.
If I could interrupt. Oh, you're done? Okay. I was just going to say that the issue on the floor is whether this is the type of motion that can be rescinded. Anyone else like to speak to that? Councillor Redden?
I'm inclined to agree with the warden on his position in that it doesn't functionally seem like something you can undo. The horse is out of the proverbial barn. You can't get it back in. There's no point in closing the door. That's all I have to say. It just doesn't seem practical to rescind it. So it would mean that it's not a motion that can have an action from it. So the rescinding of the motion doesn't have an action.
Any other discussion on the appeal of my ruling? If not, I'll call for a vote on the appeal. So just so everybody understands, I'll call for a vote for people who are in favor of Councillor Prout's appeal. That's the motion. So all those who are in favor of Councillor Prout's appeal say aye.
Aye.
There are 3 opposed.
Nay.
Nay. Motion's defeated. The appeal is defeated, I should say. Thank you, Councillor Prout.
Thank you.
Next, Nova Scotia EMO mayors and elected officials training to be rescheduled. Would I call on the CAO or Ms. Campbell, perhaps? Someone speak to that?
Yes. So you'll recall that on December 15th we had a training jointly with the towns of Middleton and Annapolis-Royal, Regional Emergency Management Organization training that couldn't occur because of the heavy schedule for council. And we are looking to reschedule that training session jointly with the towns of Middleton and Annapolis-Royal. And I do actually have an update since the email was placed in the agenda from the town of Middleton indicating that they would be available on the 19th or 26th.
Of January?
Yes. So that means the towns of Annapolis-Royal and Middleton have both expressed they would be available on either the 19th or the 26th.
The 19th we have a council meeting and the 26th we have a workshop. My own preference would be the 26th just for personal reasons because I have a dentist appointment on the 20th in Halifax. Councillor Cotw?
I would rather it be after the workshop because we can stop the workshop or whatever we're doing on a specific time. For council, if we want to get through our agenda, we'd like to finish it, so I would prefer
The 26th? Any other comments on the date?
26.
Okay. Do we need a motion, Councillor, on that, Madam Clerk, to schedule it for the 26th?
I think we can just go ahead and
Go ahead and advise.
motion selecting the 26th and then we can move forward.
Okay, so I'd like to call for a motion that we do the EMO training on the 26th in the evening. Would someone make that motion?
What question?
Just hold on a sec. I need a motion on the floor. Councillor LeBlanc moves, seconded by the Deputy Warden. Councillor Barteau?
What time of day?
7 p.m.
It's 7 o'clock.
Okay.
And it would be by Zoom.
Be Zoom? Any other comments? The EMO training at 7 o'clock on the 26th by Zoom.
That was a one-day event?
Pardon me?
A one-day event?
It's probably an hour and a half.
An hour and a half.
Okay.
Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion's carried. Next,
Happy birthday to me.
I think P and Q we might deal with together. Reopening of offices to the public and employees in office, and the plexiglass barrier installation in Lawrencetown. The CAO or Mr. McGinnis, would one of you like to report on where we stand there?
Warden Parrish, through you to the council, we've had just some brief conversations on the opening. I haven't had a chance to discuss it with all of senior staff, but at this stage, again, because of the COVID rules, we are looking at perhaps just the entrances and a place where people can actually come in, pick up something or drop something off. We'll get back to council in terms of what is the most practical. And as has been pointed out around the table, everybody has different sensitivities and some of them, some of you have family members who you know, it's really critical that you don't get exposed to COVID. So what we want to do is make sure whatever we do, that at least there's some accessibility for the public to the council, to the offices. But having not discussed it with senior staff and how we're going to make it work, I'm just saying that right now we're looking at least at the entrance, how you come in, drop something off, and leave. I'll turn it over to Director Steve, see if he's got anything else to add to this discussion.
No, not particularly. I think that one of our discussion points yesterday with the CIO was in terms of meeting with staff. And I know in my circumstance, I'm frequently out of the office, so they would have to call and get an appointment with me even during non-COVID periods to ensure that we meet. It's difficult to have business show up and say, I want to meet with you, and I'm not even there, or when they want to wait, or I'm already in a meeting, and I'm only talking of my circumstance. So I think the front entry and whatever protocols, additional protocols we have to put in place at our offices, at the Lawrencetown office, I frankly wouldn't recommend the opening of the Bridgetown office right now, because it would require additional staffing to be in place. And even prior to COVID, it was only open half days. So that's just comments. But reflecting on the CAO, I think if the executive can pull together and maybe we can put a plan together about what's going to happen at all the offices. But I think it's important, again, from my perspective, to promote to your constituents, or if you're approached, to call the directors or whoever they want to have a meeting with, to call and make that appointment. We're available, and we can have all the protocols set up in terms of sign-ins, masks, rooms, dedicated rooms, and even additional cleaning if required. So that's my addition to the discussion.
Any comments with respect to the opening of the offices? Deputy Warden?
Thank you. Months ago, we talked about this, and I always suggested that it would be nice if you go into a lot of buildings and they have an automatic door slide open. Now, excuse me, I always thought that would be very handy in Annapolis, because now we have the whole front of the vestibule, I'll call it, all plexiglassed off. We have secure doors on either end of it, and it seems kind of silly to me when I have to go there and pound on the door, or any member of the public pound on the door. And meanwhile, we have staff behind the glass, and they're doing something, and they have to get up, go through a couple of doors, come up and open the doors for me, so they've been exposed to me no matter where I come from. But if we had an automatic door where nobody's going to touch anything, and it opens, it seems to me they'd be able to go there and stand and state their business and then leave without touching anything. Right now, or even getting close to staff. Right now, it seems to me to be a little bit backwards, because, you know, anybody coming into that building, the staff that's coming through to open that door is all of a sudden exposed to it. So I'll leave it at that. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Any other comments with respect to the accessibility of the offices? I'd like to perhaps echo the Deputy Warden's comments. I'd like to see the front doors open at the Annapolis Royal office so that somebody could walk in and speak to the receptionist that's behind the plastic. We all know that we walk into stores in this county all the time. Of course, there'd be a sign on the front saying you have to wear a mask. There could be the material to clean up your hands, like it happens when you go to the liquor store, the grocery store, the drug store, anywhere else. And we've got a receptionist there that's behind the glass. And I just think from a public relations point of view, I'd like our residents to feel welcome to go to our offices and walk in the door and speak to somebody. I wouldn't expect them to be able to necessarily see any staff. As Mr. McGinnis said, they need to make an appointment to see staff. I haven't been in the offices in Lawrencetown for a while, and nor Bridgetown. I wouldn't see that working the same way because we don't have a receptionist behind plastic in those offices. I'm just talking about the main office in Annapolis Royal that I'd like to see people being able to walk in instead of a sign saying you can't come in. That's my own view. And did I take it that you're going to review that, Mr. CAO, and
Yeah, in just discussions with the Deputy CAO and Director of Municipal Operations, we think that's doable. And we just want to make sure that whatever else we need to do, we do. And COVID has got certain restrictions.
Right.
We'll just make sure we're able to do it. It's not a big issue, I don't think.
Thank you. Is that okay for both new business O and, sorry, P and Q for everybody? If so, we'll move along to the Heritage Certificate Project report. Would someone from staff like to speak to that? Mr. Dunphy?
So in your package, there is a report from Linda Bent. She is the staff support person to the Heritage Advisory Committee. To give a bit of a background to it, the Heritage Advisory Committee does not have an operating budget. That's the first issue. Okay, it's not. Doesn't. It is a committee. The normal functioning of the Heritage Advisory Committee is to review applications to register as a municipal heritage property, or to review an application that council sends down asking for a recommendation if somebody wants to do an amendment, like a change of color, an addition on a heritage property, those sorts of things. So that's his primary responsibility. One of the things that came up previously was the possibility of a heritage project. What we have is a project that essentially says we would like to send a frameable certificate to all registered or to all properties that are pre-1914. Now, in Annapolis County, there is approximately, and I'm going to make a note. I just got a message this morning from Linda that said that when you see the number of 2,565, she forgot to include Bridgetown, because Bridgetown does not have a digital database. It is completely a handwritten one or a printed one, that kind of thing. So the number then pumps up to, there is that many properties, and it pumps it up to 2,770 heritage properties, which would be asked to get a frameable certificate. And when we look at the issues behind it, there's a number of issues that come out about it. To summarize and not to take up all your time on it, you're looking at a minimum of about $24,000 to a maximum, to do the project properly, about $93,000. Thank you, Warden.
Thank you. I see this wasn't there's no motion brought forward by staff. It's for information. Is that the idea?
Yes, Warden.
So is there any discussion? There's no motion on the floor, but is there discussion, Councillor Connell?
Well, we had an another 100 some residents, it's going to be well over 100,000. And at this time, my personal feeling with the COVID interfering with our life in Adams County, we have demands on our budget right now, or going to be on our budget, or could be on our budget, that are important to the communities. And for one thing, when budget time comes, I'm going to be a very loud advocate on trying to find some funding to give to community halls that have not been able to raise money for over a year. Those community halls, a lot of times, is what makes the community. Those halls are dying because they can't raise funding. They have power bills, they have heat bills this winter. It's taken every cent some of those community halls have. Some of the community halls, the residents in the area are paying the bills. I don't disagree that it's nice to send somebody a plaque or a certificate showing that they got a heritage house. My house was built in the, I don't know, it's supposed to be beam house, it's been renovated a dozen times. I'm not interested in putting on the heritage thing, but it's well over the heritage time. But I am a little hesitant on supporting a project of this size at this time. Because I just think that we have some important things to look at when it comes to it.
Councillor Prout?
I'm going to agree with Councillor Cotw. I think that, as he says, there are a lot of community halls that really need some help, and we're in a tough time. I think in another time, hopefully after COVID, and hopefully within a matter of months, maybe we could revisit this. I know, I believe I'm speaking from my memory, but I believe I know a couple who went around the county and got some of these numbers in the past who would qualify for this. And I think it's a good idea. But as my councillor friend in District 2 has said, it's maybe not the time. It's nice to have the report. I think we should accept it through information, and maybe in the future we can act on it. But it's a chunk of change that we may not have access to at this point, or we may need for other things. Thank you.
Any other comments? Councillor Hudson?
Yes, just as a practice suggestion as how we could proceed with this, it mentions in the costing section, it mentions another option is summer student work. And I was wondering that if any consideration was given to hiring 5-6 students under the Canada Summer Job Program to commence some of this work. Under that program, they'll pay up to the minimum wage. And so I guess I just look at that as a way that we could proceed with some of this work, and the cost wouldn't be great with these subsidies.
Okay. Councillor LeBlanc?
I think Morrison had his hand up before me. So.
I don't think it matters. I saw you first.
Oh, good. I guess I was looking that way. I do agree with the fact that we could do summer students, but if we depend on the summer students to do it, as it was in the report, it's going to take a long time, a very long time. So $93,000 was based on a 3-year term, if I'm not correct there, Albert. And so if we do 3 months, let's just say 3 months for a number of 4, with just students doing it, it's going to take double the amount, I would say, or more. I don't see it as a bad thing to do. However, I think it's something that we have to keep in mind, but put it maybe on the side for now until we can decide. If we go the route of students, I I don't feel that's a bad thing either. However, it's a timeline that will be extremely long.
Councillor Morrison, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. Thank you. I want to commend Linda Bent.
Pardon me?
I want to commend the person who wrote this paper. As I read it, I smiled to myself because I know the joy, having been a staff person, the joy a staff person experiences when sometimes acting on a very simple recommendation from a committee. And I like the way it was presented. I like the detail that is in here, but it ain't something I would vote for at this time. Thank you.
Councillor Bartow, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, it's a lot of money this time and the time constraints on it. If for some reason it was found that some grant situations that was available to help or even fund it total, I don't know, that maybe we could not just shelve it for now, but keep in mind that there may be other sources of revenue that could fund it.
Deputy Warden?
Thank you. I gotta call this for what it is. I think this is a vanity project, feel-good project for the county. I don't think this should be on our list to supply this to people that, I mean, we can give them some recognition, a letter saying thank you for fixing up your old house, but I mean, a photographer and framed and double-sided, and my God, I've owned, I don't know how many old houses, hundreds of years old, and I have never received a plaque for the outside wall or anything else, and most people around here never had, other than a few that maybe got on a list in a few towns and one thing. I don't think this should be something we're pursuing with tax dollars. Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I'd like to make a few comments myself. I'm very passionate about heritage. I'm a life member of the Heritage Trust of Nova Scotia. I was on the board for many years. I was the president for a number of years of the Heritage Trust. I've been on the Provincial Heritage Board. I've written books on heritage. But right now, for the reasons in part Councillor Connell said, I don't think I want to spend $100,000 on this project. So I'll vote, if there's going to be a vote on it, I'd be against it. But I do want to say my passion about heritage, and I think that there's room somewhere for a project like this. I don't see the mileage in creating certificates that you give to everybody and they look at it and probably put it away and never look at it again. The idea was to encourage people to register their property as a heritage property, which is a good motivation. But I don't know if that's going to accomplish the goal. What I'd like to see, if we do something along these lines, is I think that the heritage buildings that we have in Annapolis County are one of our real important resources. And I think it draws a lot of people to our county, and it makes our county a better place to live in. So I'd like to see if we can ever get the money through some kind of grants to have a project like this create some kind of a, instead of a walking tour like you see in a lot of towns, a driving tour of the old homes in Annapolis County, with perhaps a little picture and a little write-up of the house, so that tourists can come and pick this up at one of the bookstores, pay a few dollars for it, and drive through our community and enjoy the history of these houses. I think that would be something that is a worthwhile project and would bring money in instead of just money out. I know that in my community in Clarence, an inventory of the pre-1914 houses was done. I have a copy. And there's a picture of the house on each page, and a history of the owners. It's something I really like to have. It was done, I'm going to say in the 90s, perhaps, in the 90s. So I can tell you my house looks very different than the picture in the book or in the pamphlet. And so I think that this is an idea that's worth pursuing, but not now, and perhaps in a different vein, is my own view. So do we need a motion or just receive for information? This was just a report. Would someone like to receive the report for information? Yeah, Councillor Sheridan. Seconded Councillor Bartow. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of receiving for information say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. I see it's 12:05. Was there a particular time that we were...
At the door, they are prepared to serve up.
Okay, shall we take our lunch break? I think we're making good progress, and hopefully we won't be too long after lunch. Okay, good lunch, nice break. We're back on the record. We're at departmental reports, and the first report is the Community Development Report for December, which you'll find at page 62 of 99 on the package. Are there any questions with respect to that report? Councillor Morrison.
Thank you. I have couple comments and a question.
Why do we make the motion first?
Councillor LeBlanc suggests there should be a motion. The motion to what? Receive for information, or? All right. Would someone like to move? Deputy Warden move to receive for information. Councillor LeBlanc seconds it. Go ahead, Councillor Morrison.
Thank you. I want to congratulate Nadine and Nancy for their Dalhousie University course successful completion. I think that's great. 4A volunteer awards. Nadine Bartow really needs to get the prize for patience, stubbornness, and determination for seeing us through the 2020 process, the result of which caused me to present 2 certificates the other night at a Cornwallis Park meeting. And now here we are for the 2021 awards. And subparagraph C, which memorial park is referenced there? Is that the big one in Ridgetown?
I can't answer that. Can any of the staff answer what the reference is to the memorial park?
Yes, what that is, that's where the area out there where the chimney is.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And they propose to do development there.
Okay, so it's not the big memorial park.
You mean Victoria?
Okay.
The big one, yeah.
Other issues we're working on include the memorial park interpretive signage, 4C.
Yep. And that is the park, they call it a memorial, where the chimney is.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments with respect to the Community Development Report? If not, I'll call for the motion to receive for information. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. The next is the Protective Services Monthly Report, which is, let's see, Protective Services. Oh, there it is. It's on 66. Would someone? The 2 reports. Well, one is Building Development Report, the other is Protective Services.
No, the Protective Services Monthly Report and then the Broadcast Report.
Oh, they'll be done separately, yeah. Yeah, but there's also the...
That's part of community development.
The development and building permit was part of the Community Development Report? Okay. So we're at the Protective Services Report at page 66, which is the 1-page report. Could I have a motion to receive that for information? Councillor LeBlanc moves. Is there a seconder for the motion? Deputy Ward, discussion on questions regarding the Protective Services Report for December? Seeing none, I'll call for the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Next is the report with respect to what we all know as the Britex building. And that begins at page 67. And in the vein of Councillor Morrison, I would like to congratulate the staff member who prepared this report. It's very detailed and fulsome, and I'm sure Council appreciates the detail that we've received in this report. There's not a recommended decision to make here. This is for information, so if someone would like to move to receive that for information, then we can have some further discussion. The Deputy Warden so moves. Is there a seconder for the motion to receive for information? Councillor Longmire. Discussion with respect to what we're going to do with this building in light of this report. Deputy Warden.
Thank you. This is quite a building, and I've watched this building for years. I've traveled that road up and down there years and years, my whole life, and I've watched this building in the last 10 years probably, mostly decay. Actually probably more like 15, when about 15 years ago I think the scuttlebutt was around that some lads went in there and stripped a bunch of the wire out of the building or something. Anyway, heard that years ago, and I said, well, thought to myself, why don't they keep that place locked up? Now, different ones have said through the years, oh, they boarded some windows up, they closed the doors, but they've really never secured that building properly. And it would be a shame to actually lose the whole entire building. I don't think it would be a shame to go in and board it up properly, tear part of it, the facade that's around the outside of it down, but secure the place. And then perhaps we can find another, I don't know, marijuana grow off or something to go in there, or somebody to make something out of that needs that room. But I gotta stress the point, this building would cost, I can't even fathom how many millions it would cost to build that building now, or how many millions it would cost to tear it down, possibly at our expense. And I would like us to avoid that. And I do believe that that property probably could be secured and repurposed. Thank you.
Ms. Mason, the Deputy Warden has raised the issue of the securing of the building. Would you like to address that?
Certainly. We are regularly attending that building to see the changes that take place every time we go. Some of the larger doors were secured on the inside. However, when they did break in, they went in and they tore everything back out again. Obviously, the only option if we want to keep people safe would be to try to hire someone to go in and board the place all up again. You have to do it as much of it from the inside as possible, because apparently they just keep going back at it. There's a cost involved with that, and I don't know what that would be. We would have to call and tender just to get some prices to find out what it would cost, and we'd have to bring that back for committee of the whole to review the price that would come in at. Certainly, if it's going to go for tax sale, we have to understand that when it goes for tax sale, that person does not obtain it for another 6 months. So that is another 6 months of that building sitting there, going in and out of it. So it's a great consideration of a cost, whether or not we're able to recover it. It's a great building. It's a brick building. And I've spoken with the fire chief on it. He said these little fires that have happened at the building have not bothered the integrity of the structure. So it certainly would be a good building for someone to obtain if we were able to promote it a little bit, and maybe someone would buy it at a tax sale that would put this thing back into good use and employ the people.
Councillor LeBlanc, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. From my understanding of this report, it was well laid out, as you said. They don't want to have anything more to do with it. It's like
With the owner and nor the mortgage holder.
no, exactly. So it is for us to decide what to do with it at this moment, according to the letters that have been received. So not only that, when I'm looking at this, I also see that there are whatever page it's on, little pieces that go with this building, pieces of property. So, but they all have different PID numbers?
Yeah, they're separate pieces.
Yeah, so, but those people, those properties would have to go with the building? The big property as well, or could they be sold separately, is what I'm trying to get at?
I would think they could be sold separately if they're separate PIDs. I think they're assessed separately. Do we know that?
They are.
They're assessed separately, so they could be sold separately.
Okay.
However, the access to the back lot would certainly be a problem, because then they would have to do property on some class of property, which wasn't the same for.
Yeah. So it would be only useful to a person that it abuts to? Perfect. Okay. Well, I think I'll leave it at that for now.
Councillor Cotw?
So, reading the report there, it says that if it goes for tender, and
You mean for tax sale?
the tax sale,
Yeah.
is the owner and the lien holder, would they agree on signing off so the new purchaser could have it the next day? Or are they holding it for the 6 months?
Yeah.
When it goes for tax sale, it goes through all these departments, but the process under the MGA is that we have to wait 6 months. I don't know whether or not we can get around that in this case.
I think that I'd be able to give them the authority to go
Can
in.
you speak up, please?
I'd be able to give them the authority to go in and put locks on it, as long as they know they'd be reimbursed if the previous owner came back and redeemed the property.
I've never dealt with this in my legal career, but I would think that if you obtained a waiver from the owner and the mortgage holder, that you wouldn't have to wait the 6 months.
Yeah, I think we could get around that.
Yeah, that's
That's
what
what
I
I
would.
was wondering.
That's if somebody buys it.
Yeah.
Councillor Bartow?
And it would be a huge deal to secure it now, because actually I've been avoiding, and I drive by it all the time, but yesterday, if anybody reports a black Hemi halftime going around the building, it's me. I took a drive around the outside of the building.
Duly noted.
And overhead doors are open, I'm not sure if they're even there. Windows are all smashed out. Like, it's not just securing a door or two. The main doors are all beat off. There's a lot of openings in that building that would have to be secured, and it's a huge monetary value to getting that done. I'm not sure. But if the owners walked away from it and the mortgage holders walking away from it, who's going to end up owning that building, and who's responsible for it? Where's the liability insurance if something happens? The county doesn't want to get hooked into a problem there. There's a lot of considerations when it comes to this property. You know, over and above, oh yeah, we could potentially use it for something. You know, and the interim is even harder to find a solution to, is, you know, from now until the time somebody may want to take it over, and then when they do, it's going to be a while before they can actually develop the property. So I'm not sure, it's a bit of a dilemma, but it's a large dollar value to even temporarily secure that, and apparently I understand that the owner had come down and secured it numerous times, and they broke back in again. So, but when I looked at it yesterday, I'm not sure how secure it was before, but there's a lot of entrances into that building. Loading docks and doors, windows, they'll all be out of it. Where's our liabilities on that? You know, if the owner's backed away from it, like, he still owns the property, right? So,
Yeah.
in theory, he's still liable currently.
Right.
So, to let him off the hook for that too quickly, I think we'd be a little bit remiss and jumping, you know, from the fat end of the fire. You know, I think that we need to give a lot more consideration on this project, or this problem, before before we make any decisions?
We had a discussion, if you may recall, a couple of meetings ago with the possibility to put this property up for tax sale. This is not the regular rotation for this property to come up for tax sale, but we did talk about moving it ahead, and we were too late to put it on the normal notice with respect to tax sale at the time. And there was some discussion about making a separate notice just with respect to this building, and then trying to sell it for tax sale by tender. Now, my understanding, talking to the clerk this morning, is that in the end we didn't do that. Can somebody help me out on my recollection of where that stands with respect to the possibility of putting this property up for a tax sale, for the upcoming tax sale in February? Does anybody know the details to that? Ms. Mason? Oh, sorry, Ms. Campbell?
I believe it was just last month that we had the discussion in regards to the possibility of the tender, and you had been dealing with the tax sale by tender normal properties. And so the conclusion was to get the report to know what you were dealing with. I believe that if there was a wish for this to be put up, we would have no encumbrance to do so. It hadn't been considered because it was only 2 years in arrears rather than the 3 years that we were using the properties that are on the list at this moment. Right. But it can be moved up, and you can put something up for tender at any time, is my understanding.
Likely, we just have to make sure we send out the 60-day notices and that the owner has all the proper, the legal forms that say you have 60 days.
So our normal tax sale is in February, correct?
Right.
So are you saying that if we wanted to have a tax sale for this one building, we could do it in March or April, so long as we met the timelines?
Yes.
Anyone else? Councillor Bartow has already spoken. Anyone else want to speak before I come back to him? Councillor Redden?
I'm kind of curious. You say it still appears to be structurally...
Could you address?
Sorry.
Sure.
The building still appears to be structurally sound, is what I'm understanding. Is there anything else left there, or is it just a husk? I guess.
Ms. Mason?
From what we can see, we do not enter buildings of that sort, but certainly there is a group that has been entering and posting pictures. There is still some equipment in the building. There is a lot of paperwork that has been left behind, not from the current owner, but from owners from 15 years ago, strewn all over the place. The building appears to be in good shape. However, it certainly will be a lot of work to clean up.
Okay.
Well, can I have your December motion if you'd like to give it from council?
Did it apply to this building? Sure.
Yes. So there was a motion made. Deputy Warden Dunn moved, seconded by Councillor Sheridan, pursuant to the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, that Municipal Council list the Britex property in the tender for tax sale this year if possible. That motion was lost. The subsequent motion was moved by Councillor Sheridan, seconded by Councillor Longmire, to request the administrator of unsightly or dangerous properties to provide more information on the options available for the Britex building.
Thank you.
So
Thank you for that. Councillor Connell?
So, I'm assuming there's taxes owing on this property.
Yeah.
2 years.
2 years taxes. So are we eligible to sell it below what's owing on it?
I don't know.
We are. Don't answer that. I didn't ask you.
I don't know the answer to that question. Do you know, Mr. CEO?
Warden, through you to the council, the MGA, and I'll have to refresh my memory on it, the MGA says that you can only recover what they owe you in taxes. But at that point, if there are no takers, council can then decide that you want to use another process, and you can go through a tender process, or I forget the other process. I'm looking at you, Director of Finance, Holly, because you're probably the one that has sat through most of these tax sales. But if you don't get your money back, what's owing to you, you then put it out to a different process, which is a tendering process?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, you can take less what's owing. We can take $1 for it.
Yes, that's right. If that's the only offer you get, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was my point, is that we don't need it. because it's surely going to cost a lot to secure it, a lot more to tear it down. And again, we don't need the headache of it. So if we can't get any bids on the tender, then we put it back out, and if someone offers $1 on that, because then it becomes their word. And there's local people there that's probably sitting there waiting for that. Because one of the biggest commercial dealers in our county has a process not down the road from that, and that's Cody Hamilton. So I mean, I don't know if he would be, but I mean, if I was Cody and I had a warehouse that close to a lot of stuff I went on, for $1 it would sound pretty good.
Any other comments with respect to what we might do with this building? Councilor Cotw?
Just going back to the process again, I'm more concerned about protecting ourselves as well. And I'm not sure if where it's already on Cheryl's plate, that if we sell it for $1 or whatever we do, can we put stipulations on, because then we'd be back into a situation where we haven't got rid of the problem. You know, if we haven't got our tax dollars back by selling for $1, we're just getting rid of it, shuffling it from one owner to another, which could leave it sitting there, and it's still an eyesore and a danger to the community. So we need to have something in place to protect the community and carry through with the unsightly and dangerous premises portion of the whole thing. Just getting rid of the property is not solving the problem.
Well, if we get rid of it to somebody who wants to do something with it, it'll solve the problem.
Yeah, but anybody could say that.
Yep. Well,
yeah.
So the process with the tax sale is that if you get a slum landlord that picks it up, you're in worse off because that happens sometimes. Somebody will get it and they'll buy it and they'll continue to use it for whatever purpose they want, and you can't do anything about it because the MGA says thou shalt only collect the money that you're owed. However, in the tender process, now you can put something out there. The municipality can actually lay out the terms of the tender and say that there's a property and the successive whoever's successful will have to develop it within so many months or whatever. I mean, then you put some stipulations. You can actually do that in the tendering process, but you can't put stipulations when you're actually going out on a tax sale. We wanted to, and we were told quite specifically in my previous life, you cannot do that. You can only go and get the money that you're owed back. So when you do put it out to tender, Warden, I was going to call you your worship. I'm so used to the Warden. That's when you can be specific about what you want to see, how you want to see it developed or what they need to do. Now, if they don't comply in the 6 months, it goes back out to tender.
Tender for tax sale, still a tax sale though. We don't own it, so we can't just put it up for tender. We have to.
You don't have to put it up for tax sale anymore. You can just put it, because you couldn't get your money at a tax sale. But you can put out a tender saying that you're looking for offers on the building.
Ms. Mason, do we know the amount of the taxes that are owing on the building?
No, I don't have that information.
Any other comments?
Right here.
Deputy Warden.
If I may, thank you. So we haven't received this property yet. It's just tax sale. It's kind of sitting in limbo at the moment. Couldn't we send Public Works in there to secure that building up? Couldn't we make that a part of Public Works? We'd be getting it done well, I shouldn't say much cheaper, but it could be done possibly more cost effective than putting a contract in.
I'll ask the CAO, but first of all, we don't own the building.
Well, that's what I say, when we do own it.
Oh, you're talking about, well, I don't see under any scenario we ever do own it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's even
If we
better.
put it up to tender, we still don't own it. We're putting it up for tender pursuant to try and get our taxes. Is that right,
yes.
Mr. CAO? Yeah. So I think, to be frank, the last thing we want to do is own that building.
I agree. But I thought, what I was thinking was that at some point, we would own it for, although it be a few minutes.
Yeah, I don't think. I think I'll go back over to Councilor LeBlanc.
What was just said from the start, being it's unsafe, and no matter what it does, it still gets broken in. But at this particular time, if it's unsafe, do we have to do something at this particular time to secure it? And the money it used to be that the money that was spent on securing your building would go against with the taxes owed.
Correct.
So at this particular point, is it our responsibility to secure that building for safety?
That's a good question. Mr. CEO, do you know the answer to that question?
If Warden, through you to council, if council has determined it was a dangerous property, and my assumption is that someone cited the property as a dangerous and unsightly property, is it fair to say that?
Is that Ms. Mason, is that correct?
Okay, so that having been established, if the owner does not comply, then because we found it to be a dangerous property, it probably is a good idea on our part to go and board it and secure it. The challenge with that, though, is that if somebody keeps breaking it, and now you've taken it upon yourself to maintain that, and you'll have to do that on a regular basis. Nothing wrong with it, because if nobody's taking responsibility for it, someone has to do it. And as the councillor correctly pointed out, all of the costs continue to go against that property, and then so you go your tax sale plus whatever's owing. Now that becomes the bottom line for when it goes out to the tax sale. The challenge, of course, is one of you absorbing the liability as soon as you touch it, because then you have to ensure now that you now that you boarded that window or boarded all the openings, that you have to continue to maintain it. And that's the challenge with some of these properties. The town of Windsor, as you know, if you've driven by that big factory, imagine us trying to go and close up every one of those windows and patch, and that was the constant complaint. But the town, recognizing what it could cost them, felt that they continue to leave the liability with the owners, because as soon as we touch it, then we have to start. Somebody else comes and pops another window, and then how do you maintain it when there are present owners? Until and I haven't seen the correspondent to say that this person has actually said. I'm seeing some letters, but if they're saying it's no longer theirs, then we can act quickly and put it up for sale. But I don't know. I don't know the exact. Are we free and clear? Is it ours? Is it whose is it?
It's not ours. Ms. Mason, have we ourselves, has the county done any protection of the building, shoring it up, protecting it at all?
No, at this point we have spent no money other than we have had our officers drive around the building on a regular basis.
Yeah, and it sounds like from what the CAO has said, that if we start doing the work ourselves, then we start to incur the liability, which is something we probably don't want to do.
So part two of
Sorry?
the question was, we're not responsible then
At
for
the moment.
safety issue, okay? So if it's a responsibility, and we're telling them to go secure the building and they're not doing it, is there a process of there being fines and...
A good question. I thought that myself, and I'm not aware of such a provision. I think the only provision is for us to fix it up and then charge it on the tax sale. But I stand to be corrected. Do you know the answer to that, Ms. Mason?
Yes, sir. If we wish to go that route, we could have a summary offense ticket written for every day that they do not comply. However, I was warned basically by the solicitor that they will not respond to any requirement to meet the Municipal Government Act and our policy on dangerous suicide premises. So it's kind of a, do we spend the time and issue tickets that we're not going to be able to retrieve? We can go to court against them. We may never recoup our monies. And I've not gone this far in any process that I've ever done, that I've had this kind of problem.
So the solicitor sent, you said the solicitor sent a letter stating that? Yeah, so then it is. It's in there.
Their solicitor.
Yes, theirs.
Yes, yeah.
Anybody that hasn't spoken yet on this issue? So, Councillor Cotw?
So, I have no concern of voting to put it up for sale as soon as we get it for sale. And because I don't have, many times in the tax sales of this county, there's property's been sold. Individuals have found that it's not what they thought it was. They bought something they didn't know things about, contaminants and stuff like that. And in 2 years' time, guess what? Same piece of property goes back on the tax sale. So that's been dealt with time and time again, so I'm not afraid of something coming back on the tax sale. But to sit here and do nothing, to me, is not right. So I think as soon as we can get it on.
Would you like to make a motion in that regard then?
I would make a motion that we get it prepared and put up for a tax sale item as soon as possible.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Deputy Warden?
Tax sale by tender?
Yeah, we would do it by tender within the timeline that the Chief Financial Officer indicated we must do. And then if we don't get the money that's owed, then I guess we can put it out on a second tender and get less than the taxes. Is that how it works? Yeah. So the motion on the floor is to put it up for tax sale by tender as soon as we can. And it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion about that? Councillor Sheridan?
So at that point, you become liable?
I wouldn't think so, but I don't think so. Can anyone answer that? Ms. Mason, do you know
We still won't own it.
We won't own it,
You
no.
don't have any liability, so okay, thank you.
I think we,
Councillor Bartow?
could we get some legal opinion on that? I think none of us are sure where we're going
On which
this
point?
one. Yeah,
On
I
which
think
point?
we need to have some legal opinion as to our status and our standing and what would transpire legally. You know, it's still owned by somebody else. We're doing tax sale, but then the question was asked, at what point does it change over and who's liable?
It never comes to us. It only goes to the person that buys at the tax sale.
Yeah. So,
I can tell you
due to the
that.
nature of the taxes not being paid, we can put it for sale and transfer title legally.
At the if someone buys in at the tax sale for the amount of the taxes, or
And then maybe we should consider at the same time, like you mentioned before, Mr. Warden, is to get some waivers from the current owner and the mortgage holder so that we could make a clean break of it instead of waiting that 6 months.
that's a decision we can approach if somebody does buy in at the tax sale for sure.
But if they knew that might be the case, there might be more people who are willing to bid on it. I don't know, if they weren't encumbered for 6 months. Just a thought.
Yeah.
Can I ask if mover and seconder intend to include the associated the building and associated properties?
Oh, that's a good question. If you remember the plan that Ms. Mason circulated, there are a couple of other properties there, little tiny ones on the water, if I remember correctly.
The taxes were paid on one.
Taxes were paid on one, but Ms. Mason, can you help us out? The taxes, how many pieces have the taxes not been paid on?
There are technically the two parcels that are broken by the railway line, that would be connected. There is a third parcel, but it is off the little road there.
Haley Road.
if he was not totally connected, because it actually has a roadway that cuts it off, although the taxes have not been paid on that also. Maybe it's an undersized lot.
And so it's been 2 years on those little properties, the taxes haven't been paid for 2 years, like the big property?
Yes.
Oh, I thought there'd be one on said taxes.
Taxes were paid.
Yeah, the one.
So that means there's only the one little one and the big one that the taxes have not been paid on, is that right? So,
Two small properties.
Two small properties, because there's three small properties.
okay, there's 3 small properties and there's 2 that haven't had the
Correct.
taxes paid on them.
Correct.
But one is not connected specifically to the parcel, it is a separate parcel.
Well, I guess for clarification of the motion, as the clerk has asked, is the intent of the motion to sell all 3 of the properties on which the taxes haven't been paid for 2 years? Is that mover, Councillor Connolly, or the mover?
I would think where they're separate, I would just deal with the building. Next year, if the taxes aren't paid on those 2 little pieces, what are going to tax them next year?
Is this the seconder? Who seconded the motion?
Right here. I'm fine with that.
Mr. C.L.?
Warden, through you to council, I think, if you don't mind, I think we better look at, whether this is one large property, and there might be, I'm really not sure what we're dealing with right now. If it's okay with council at the next meeting of council, well, not committee of the whole, we can just ascertain what we're looking at, and we may have to get a legal opinion on it. I'm not quite certain. I don't know how we can be paying for taxes on one building, and are they all separate properties, or are they one large
separate
property?
pits.
Okay.
Have you seen the map, plan?
It's on page 89.
Yeah, they're all separate.
Can I ask a question?
What page is that?
89 of 99.
Well, those are all separate entities then.
See, there's the 2 little ones on the river,
First, the big one, then the second
and
one.
then there's the...
Unknown Highland Road.
So there's four in total?
PID.
Yeah, but the third one is paid up.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the third one's paid up.
So we're good then. We're good, I think, dealing with just the one property. I hadn't really looked at that yet.
So the...
Can I ask which one?
Just a sec, yeah, just hold on a sec, just hold on. So, Councillor Connolly, as far as your motion's concerned, you're talking about just the big piece. And who seconded that motion?
Deputy Warden, if I could have.
And you said that's good for you. So the point of the motion is we're selling just the big piece.
Yes.
At the tax sale.
And that even,
And the
it
others...
heals itself because they all got separate.
Sorry?
Could the mover give me the PID number?
0521 3947.
Yep.
All right, there's a motion on the floor that we sell the large piece at a tax sale when we can. Now, I know Councillor Bartow wanted to say something, but are you ready to speak?
Yeah, I just was trying to clarify, and part of it's clarified now, is which one taxes were paid on.
The third one.
But the other one out front is bounded by road, so there's no problem with access to that one. But the third one that isn't paid on, I don't think you can landlock a property. So it's got a separate PID, but...
You can get it by water.
Yeah. Okay. So that's legal.
Really?
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. Yep. Answer my question.
What's that?
Yeah. We'll check that next summer when we go.
Yeah. Any other comments on the motion on the floor to sell the large piece at a tax sale? Any other comments? So this would be a recommendation to council, right? Seeing no more comments, I'll ask for a vote on the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
And on the, to accept the receiving report.
Pardon me? Pardon me?
The question on receiving the report for information.
Yeah.
There's a motion to receive it, we just haven't called the question on the motion.
Okay, to receive the report for information, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. So Ms. Mason, thank you very much for the detailed report. You can see it was quite helpful to have the plan and everything that you provided to us. I appreciate it very much. Okay.
Ask a question.
Yeah?
This doesn't show the building located on the lot. Where it actually is, there's a lot of little PIDs out in front of that large major property. And I just was trying to associate where is the actual building, which, you know, covers quite an expanse.
The building would be in that.
In the yellow area.
Okay, just be to the left of the one that's in the middle.
Yeah. Maybe two private properties there.
Okay, so that one in the front of the middle is where the water tower is.
Okay, Councillor Bartow, we're good?
Yeah, I think I'm good now. Thank you.
Next on the agenda, the Municipal Services Report, which is found at page 90 of 99. I'll put a motion on the floor to receive for information, and then we can have discussion. Councillor Prout moves. Is there a seconder to the motion? Deputy Warden. Discussion. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you. This is the first municipal services report that has contained a report on waste management, I think. It's very good information. And I'd like to know what recycle coaching is.
Mr. McGinnis?
Warden, it's our software program.
Sorry, I missed that. What was it?
It's a software program that people can, it's an app that you load on your phone that asks it different questions. It gives you reminders when your pickup day is, what you can recycle, what you can't.
Thank you.
Councillor Prout?
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Municipal Services Manager. I'm referring to street lights, the second item on page 91. Tree limbs were blocking an existing LED light on the Vault Road. Contractor was able to remove the limbs to provide optimal illumination. That has been a long-standing complaint by one of my neighbors, and I happened to notice the day they were there, and I went by twice to see how they were doing. Not that I was going to climb up there and cut limbs with the chainsaw, but it made a world of difference, and I thank you for looking after that, Steve. Thank you very much.
Any other comments with respect to the report, the Municipal Services Report?
Oh, right here.
Deputy Warden?
If I may. Yeah, it's on the snow control of municipal streets in Cornwallis Park. So this contract was for the whole year, or are we paying him by each time he does that? Or was that a contract for the whole season?
It's a contract for the whole season. We pay on a monthly basis. We pay on a monthly basis. It's like we pay, and either he has a really good month or he has a really bad month.
Huh.
But
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Just a point of clarification. Both sides of the road or just...
Sorry, Councillor Hudson, sorry.
Yes. Is that both sides of the highway?
yes.
No.
Anybody else? Any comments on the municipal? Councillor Cotw?
We had an article added to the agenda there for the Granville ferries. Sidewalks wouldn't that be a good time?
Well, I think we'll deal with it as we've got it on the agenda.
Okay.
I don't see it referred to here on this report.
No, that's what I wanted.
Any other comments with respect to the Municipal Services Report?
I would make one more if I'm allowed. Thank you.
Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Upper Clements Park property. What is going on with the Upper Clements Park property? I see here we've looked after the locomotives moved and the boxcars are going. And with that property, we're still paying for security now through Mr.
Farron.
Yeah, Farron. And so that's all there is. I guess I worry about our assets down there, through you, Mr. Warden, about our assets still being secure, because that whole issue of Upper Clements Park property has yet really to be settled, whether it's even illegal, or whether it's even legal, what's going on at the moment there with the transfer of the property, because it was the last county or the last council that transferred that property through the wrong kind of meeting. So I have this inkling in the back of my neck that says things aren't quite right down there, and I worry about our assets down there and whether they're being looked after well. Thank you.
The issue of what flows out of the meetings on November the 4th will be dealt with at the next council meeting, and you'll be getting a staff report on that shortly.
Thank you.
Councillor Cotw?
Under the waste, time comparison there for April, on page 92, 99, April to November, under recyclable, is that included cardboard and recyclables, or is that just recyclables?
That's all blue bag recyclables, including cardboard.
Even bulk cardboard?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by bulk cardboard in terms of what our collection service picks up and delivers and weighs. That's what we deliver. If there are separate commercial entities that do it, that don't fall within our waste stream, large grocery stores, whatever, they have their own system, that is not recorded through our process. If that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, well, I've never been down to the site, and I would just, when I go into Morristown site and dump cardboard, because I belong to Middleton, so I go to Morristown with our commercial garbage. In their cardboard piles, some are blue bags, some are loose cardboard. I just wondered if we took that the same way at the site at Paradise.
Mr. McGinnis, you can respond.
When the curbside collection vehicles pick up from residences or whatever other properties, and they have properly bundled the cardboard, it all gets delivered to the Paradise site. We load it, and it all goes to the Scotia Recycling in Kenfield.
Okay.
Any other comments with respect to the municipal services report? Councillor Redden?
Just curious what a dissolved air flotation system is.
Pardon me?
Dissolved air flotation. It failed in the Cornwallis water. I was curious what it...
Sorry, can you direct me to that?
Page 90, operations, Cornwallis water is the third one down.
Cornwallis water?
Yeah. Operating normally, one of the dissolved air flotation has failed.
Yeah.
Repairs were for quotes. Just curious what it was.
What the quote is?
What the device is.
What the device is, the dissolved air flotation?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
It's for treating our potable water. It's a surface source. So what the unit does is we add what's called a flocculant. It injects dissolved air. The flocculant attaches to the bad stuff, and we skim that off. So it's just, and we have two parallel processes. One unit is still operational. We had a chain drive, I think, and some plates fail on it. That's what we're repairing it.
That's great. Any other comments on the municipal services report? If not, there's a motion on the floor to receive for information that's been moved and seconded. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Next is the CAO office, and before we introduce Mr. Cotw, I would like to express my thanks and thanks on behalf of the whole council and the county to the Deputy CAO, back to being Deputy CAO, Don Campbell, for the excellent superior job she did stepping into the lurch as the interim acting CAO, I will refer to her as. She did a wonderful job for us. She kept all the things moving as they had to move, and I want to express our thanks to the work that she did for us.
That I would accept it on behalf of the team, because it took the whole team supporting me for the period of time that I did it. I'm looking forward to a wonderful go forward with our new acting CAO, and I sincerely mean that. I would accept your thanks on behalf of the team, because everyone stepped up to help, and it took a team to do some of the things that were being looked for.
Thank you. Thank you. So, that having been said, over to you, Mr. Cotw.
So, Warden Daphne, Warden Parrish, this is the old warden from West End. Warden Parrish and members of council, I'm very humbled that you've accepted me for your CEO for the next 3-4 months. So there's a lot to do in the next little while. And I thought I'd do a little report to you on what it is I'll be looking at. Clearly, if there's other things you want to see me do, then that's great. By and large, I want to echo the warden's accolades of our deputy CAO. She continues to be a great help to me and all of senior staff. I'm really humbled at the level of competency we have amongst staff, and it's going to make my job much easier. I've got a really solid team behind me, all the way from Carolyn down to Albert at that end, and David at the very end there. So we've got a solid team, and through, I've started to meet some of the staff. I haven't met all of them, and I intend to meet all of them tomorrow, meeting with the management team, and I'll get to start meeting all of them. I met some of the union folks as well. All of them excellent folks here. You have to be very proud of your team, and I am certainly pleased that I've got a good team to work with. On my plate, and I've got a current list, I'll try to stick to some of the more sort of heavy-duty ones and give you a feeling of the kind of work we're doing. So one of the things I'd like to do in bullet one is meeting with all members of council, and thank you very much for those councils who have reached out and who are already met. You've been giving me a warm welcome, and I appreciate that. I know that you've got some questions. You're probably off staff or of me. What I would suggest is submit your questions to our clerk or to me. We will compile them and certainly try and get responses to you on some of the questions that you have on your plate. If some of the questions look like they're relevant to the rest of council, rest assured I'll bring back some kind of an information report just saying these were some of the issues raised. I won't necessarily mention which council, but if it has broad application to all of you, rather than just one council getting the response, it'll be brought to all of you as a response. So submit your questions. I know Councillor Redden said he's got a whole page. I wasn't hoping for a page, I was hoping for one or two.
Right big.
But I'll take whatever you got, and we'll make sure that we try to get you answers. On the second thing, I'm currently working with municipal staff and our legal counsel, which is Cox and Palmer, and the warden just alluded to the fact that there's a report coming to you at the council meeting next week to do with Gordonston, and so trying to wrap my arms around that. And there's a number of issues that will come to you. So. That'll be one of the projects that they're working on, and so I think I can almost see definitely that we'll have a report for you on the 19th of January. And in the meanwhile, staff and I are preparing for these workshops, the Valley Waste, Broadband Internet, and Gordonston School on the dates that you have. And as you've noted there, and as I've expressed a little earlier, I want to understand the nuance of what you call workshops, because I understand the workshops have traditionally been just in-house. And I think there's two parts. One is actually just the broader aspects of the project. So let's take the internet project. You know, when did you start with it? What was the... Oh, sorry. So what was the project? What was intended? Who has it now? Where is it at? Litigation issues are a separate matter altogether, and those we can deal with either in council or after the meeting. And you know, if you have a committee of the whole structure meeting, then we can deal with we can deal with each of these topics on the front end, and then go into in-camera to deal with anything that's litigious. And clearly you don't want to discuss legal matters in a public forum, but the public would know that there is some kind of litigation that we are involved in, and nothing wrong with that. But the details and how we're negotiating and whatnot are not for public consumption. And hence my suggestion that it be some kind of a special committee of the whole meeting for each one of these broad topics. So you got Gordonston, you got Valley Waste is another one. You know, where were we, what decisions did we make, and what are we doing now? And again, if there's any litigation around those, not for debate in a public arena, just because of the confidentiality. So that's a big piece of work, and staff have been very helpful bringing me up to speed on how we got to where we are. Planning orientation sessions with council, and clearly we're going to set some dates. The orientation sessions are intended for several reasons. One, bring you up to speed on our departments and our department heads, what they've got on their plate, budgets, what projects are on. That'll be one. Two, I'd like to bring a different perspective, an academic perspective, and I'm thinking of Jack Novak. I don't know if any of you know Jack Novak from the School of Public Administration. Bring an academic perspective around the table to talk to you about local governance and governance in general. And then probably the third part of that orientation would be municipal affairs. Now, having listened to council, we may have to find a site that has Zoom as an example, if there's some considerations around who comes and whatnot, because municipal affairs would probably have 3 or 4 people that are key that we would be contacting. And so just give you a sense of who we work with and how we get things done. But the whole governance issue would be good, and council's roles and responsibilities. I would like to perhaps arrange 3 bus trips. I know you folks have a very large territory, and I don't know. I'm sure that you know every corner of Annapolis County, but it probably would be nice, I think, to take all of council on probably 3 bus trips through Annapolis County. And for the simple reason, one, you get to appreciate your geography and how large you are. But more importantly, each council, as you're driving through the district, can give you probably some highlights of their district. We're not saying we can go and see all of the sites, but certainly the councillor can explain, her perspective or his perspective of what the district has. And if we can all go meet regulations, I know that transit has regulations on how you get on the bus and whatnot, but if we're in a bubble and can do it safely, ideally it would be nice to also have senior staff, and because I'd like you to see some of the assets that you own and where they are. You might just know of them, of something out in the community, but to actually see it and see the condition it's in, whether it's a playground or a sewage treatment plant or whatever. I think if it's not of interest to you, that's fine, but it seems to me like just a trip through the county would be good, and it might be 3 bus trips because you've such a large county. I'll try and skip through this. One of the things I'd like to do, and I have done in my past with my previous councils, is I submit a weekly report. And the weekly report is to all members of council, and I will copy my senior staff on it. But it simply outlines, these are the things I'm doing, and this is what, if I know what I've got on the docket for the next week, I'll advise you. But what it does is that there are times when you might not see me for 2 days, and you're thinking, this guy is supposed to be here for this day and this day and this day, and I don't see him. Well, if you have a weekly report like this, you get a sense of what's on my plate, where I've been, if there are meetings somewhere, and it's just a good way to communicate to council and the senior staff, and everybody knows, what's on this. It'll be very brief, and it gives you the opportunity to ask me, can you give us a little explanation of what that meeting was with the Department of Municipal Affairs, as an example. And it would take me sort of 30 seconds to give you, tell you what it was, what the meeting was about. So it's something I do, and I'll be just submitting it to you and to the clerk, so everybody's informed, including my staff. In terms of council reports, these are all really good reports, but one of the things I'd like to do, I had promised my staff I wasn't here to make any changes, but one of the things I do feel needs a little bit of refinement is having all reports look consistently the same. So that's one, is that the formatting should be the same, and it should all come through the CAO's office. So every report you get should actually be coming from the CAO. Because, as I said to the warden, I'm the neck you need to squeeze. It's not. You don't want to be. It's. You've got one neck to squeeze, and that's mine. And I'll make sure that the appropriate authors and whatnot. So the reports will will clearly state who did the report, who prepared them, and also want to ensure that the rest of the senior staff have it's been vetted properly through the senior staff. So if the director of legislative services should have signed off on it, or director of finance, or for me it would be like, was this before the report comes before you and I'm signing off on it, it's like, okay, all of these things were covered, because sometimes we all get busy and we put the report to you, you make some motions on it, only to find that perhaps we should have consulted director of finance, and there's no money for it. Well, we don't know where we're going to get the money for it. Anyway, there are things happen. Things happen. So that process is just so that the incoming CAO knows. That'll be probably the only thing I'll change, because they do everything else absolutely fabulously. I don't want to touch that part, but I think you should be able to see the reports in a particular format. So just as an example, it'll start with the origin. Where did this come from? Was it a council meeting? Was it a request from a citizen? So the origin. The next will be the legislative authority. Do we have the legislative authority to be dealing with it? What's under what legislative authority? Municipal Government Act such and such and such. Then the recommendation follows below it, and then you get a discussion, budget implications, policy implications, will be some subtitles, and then that type of thing. It simply keeps it, and if there are none, we just say none. If there are no budget implications, we say none. If there are budget implications, you need to know where the money is coming from. So it'll be coming out from a reserve account, or it'll be coming out from approved budget account number such and such. Those are simple things, so that nobody gets caught unawares about what you're expensing and where the money is and whether it was budgeted for and so on. It's just it's all about accountability. I mean, I can't go and point fingers to my staff because they wrote a report and say, well, they told me. No, it is my accountability to ensure that that you got the right information. There's a couple of things here. I'm suggesting that but it's not for me to do, so I probably won't read it. But I thought, a strategic plan or branding for this municipality. You may already have a brand, and you may have already got a strategic plan in place, but that would be for the incoming CEO to work with the council on. The other thing is that I've been reaching across. I've already reached my colleagues, my CAO colleagues in the Valley region, and the intent is to see, to keep us in the loop on what's going on in the Valley region, and if there's opportunities for partnerships, and certainly goodwill between the CAOs and our councils. Frankly, I've started that, so it's just it's a conversation. It's a conversation. I'm also looking at putting out an RFP for legal services. I think that was the two main things was one, putting out an RFP for legal services, and for general services as well as prosecutorial. How do you say that?
Prosecutorial.
Okay, I said it right. Now, in the interim, in the next 3 months, I know that council has already retained Cox and Palmer to help us with a couple of cases, but I will be relying on them for all of our current needs, and then I can have a conversation with council later as we start talking about what kinds of services you want to have outside. I think having the kind of expertise we've got for legal counsel is going to serve us well in the next few months. And the CAO recruitment. This is not a one-man show. I have been tasked to do the recruitment for it, but I'm looking to set up a council committee. We'll just call it a CAO recruitment committee to work with me. My suggestion is that the warden and 2 other councillors, I think, if you want to have it larger, that's up to you, but three elected officials and myself would make a great team, and we can vet all of the issues. We can be the interviewing panel, and I can help you with that recruitment process. So I'll probably bring a 5th person from the outside to sit on the panel, because I think I don't want to put any of my staff in a position where the next boss, they're recruiting the next boss. We could, but don't want to make them uncomfortable. So I might bring somebody, a fellow CAO from another jurisdiction, or a councillor from another area, something to sit on the panel, so we keep it objective. Now, because of the urgency of getting the advertisement out, I got our Director of Legislative Services, her staff, helping me with the job descriptions and the profiling of the candidates. So we're working on that. I'm working with one of her staff in developing this. I'd like to get that out an ad out very quickly, but because I don't have a panel to work with, I'm going to distribute it to council for your quick overview and say, this is the profile, this is the job posting, this is what it's going to look like, this is what the profile of the candidate is going to look like, and feel free to send me your input, because that's the only way I can expedite this right now. And I'll give you a deadline by when you can send your feedback to me on it. That way we can dispatch with the advertisement job ad early next week and get the ball rolling for the recruitment of the CAO. And that just gives you sort of a little bit of a flavor of what's on my plate, and my weekly reports will fill you in on what's going on as we move forward. Thank you for your time, and I apologize for doing this to you, because one of the things I know council never likes surprises, and you want time to be able to read things at your leisure before you come to council. So you won't get any surprises from me and things being dropped on your desk on the day off. And I know my staff intuitively understand that. So if we're going to see things, we'll be bringing them to you in good time so that you can look at them before you address them. So Warden Harris, thank you for...
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Mr. Cotw?
Yeah, find the money tree.
Sorry?
Find the money tree.
Find the money.
Duplicate it.
Oh, we could always raise taxes.
Say that.
Any questions, comments?
Well,
Deputy Warden?
Thank you very much. Through you, Warden. When we go looking for a CAO to fill this position that we need in the county, will we be looking, giving preference mostly to the Maritimes, Nova Scotia in particular?
Warden, through you to the council, the intent is to go Canada-wide, and of course Nova Scotia-wide as well. But I'll be using forums like CAMA, the Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators. There's another group called the ICMA, which is the International City Managers Association. So these go out to every municipality, so that's one group. So we may attract experienced CAOs. But the intent is also to attract the next level. So there's lots of capable people at the director level, as you've seen here. We've got, I don't know why you got me, because you had Dawn.
Dawn won.
So it's you have very capable people as well locally. When I say locally, at the director level, who could very easily step up into this position. And so there are many more directors in Canada than there are CAOs to pick from. So to answer your question, it's open wide.
It will be open.
Yeah, and if it's council's wish that you go through a search company, then that's your wish. But I want to start the ball rolling, and I have done recruitments in the past, and this should not be too big a challenge to get it done properly for you. However, it is your prerogative at a later date to if you decide, well, he really needs to have a recruitment company doing this, that's up to you. They come with a cost, and they probably wouldn't be doing much more than I would. However, they probably do have better reach into different people. When I say better reach, a lot of people will file their names with a search company. And so there could be a CEO of a private company that wants to become a CAO in a town. Two different things, but they might have the skill set to do the job. Yeah.
Thank you. And a follow-up there, if I may follow up. When we came to council, through Warden, we all gave an oath of office. We all, promised that we would do the best for our county. And I wonder, is there one for CAO? Does a CAO, when he take a job, give an oath of his office? Because I often wondered about it. Thank you.
Yes, there is. It's called a contract. You can terminate me if you don't think I'm. Confidentiality is one of the things that we are bound to, and it's. Deputy Warden, I have to say it's the one thing that if we can't do, we shouldn't be in the job. It is an oath to keep whatever matters are discussed in here and in council, here. It has to stay, and I will be made aware of certain things, and that's a confidentiality matter, and even when you leave the job, that's where it stays. But I don't know if I'm answering your question. No, there is no oath for me. It's just I can't answer that. Do you know if there is an oath for
No,
appointed?
I'm not aware of any
No.
oath, but we know that you're going to work for the best interests of the county,
Yeah.
and any CAO would, so, but I don't think there's a specific oath.
Okay. No, I was just wondering if there was a note, because we all take oaths to do our duty, and you have, your office has a fiduciary duty.
Yes.
And where does the CAO swear that he'll do his fiduciary duty? Just by signing the contract, is what you're telling me?
Yeah, unfortunately, that was a flippant response, and I apologize for that. The Municipal Government Act, it has clearly outlines what the responsibilities are. But in terms of an oath, where it says, I promise to serve, in your case, you're serving the citizens, and you're accountable to the citizens, and while I'd like to think that I'm accountable to the citizens, I'm not. I'm accountable to you, and so they'll vote you in out of elections, and then you hire and fire your CAO if he or she's not delivering. So it's my pledge to you is, if you need an oath, is that I will serve this council faithfully. That's all I can tell you.
I'm not asking you.
I simply say that's the way I am.
And thank you.
And you will get a straight answer from me anytime you ask a question. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Catino. We'll move ahead.
Receive this CAO office report, please.
Pardon me?
A motion to receive.
Oh, to receive the report? Could I have a motion to receive the report? Councillor Sheridan moves, Deputy Warden second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion's carried. Next is the council motion checklist for December, which is...
That's part of the report out of the CAO office. I asked for the report. So it's always the CAO's monthly report and the motion summary.
So that was included in the last motion then?
Yes, that's not
Okay.
part of the CAO office.
Okay, next, council committee and organizational reports. The King's Transit Authority report. We'll find that. Yes, last page. Would someone like to move to receive that report? Councillor LeBlanc. Is there a seconder? Councillor Longmire. Discussion? No, I see no discussion. I'll move the question. All those in favor of receiving that report say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. The next is the Warden's monthly report. Thought this month I would do it verbally like I did last month. What I intend to do is break up what I do as Warden in my reports and what I do as a councillor when we go around the table next at the council meeting to talk about what I do as a councillor. So this is just going to be things I do as Warden. Over the past month, I've had a couple of meetings with Mr. Catino to recruit him for the job here. One thing I've done, a number of communications, I've been talking to the people at Seaside Communications. Now, if you go onto the Seaside website, they have a particular part of the website that deals with the Annapolis project that they've been retained to work on. And at the beginning, when you go on it, they still have the old warden there with the old warden's message. And they want to change it, and I want to change it. So I've been talking to them. But what I wanted to do in my message, I've given them a picture, is I wanted some information for our residents as to when the first hookup is going to be and when the last hookup is going to be. Right now, what they have, if you go onto that website, is that they have the different areas of the county that are going to receive the high-speed internet. And if you are able to navigate the site, you go down to the area that you're looking at, and you click on that, it will tell you the percentage of the cabling that's been done in that area. And for example, Middleton, who is part of the project, they're 46% done cabling. Where I live in Clarence, it's 0. Now, they've been along and they've done the trimming on my road, but they haven't laid any cable. And I think if you look at the map, most of the places in the county are still at 0% as far as cabling is concerned, although from just driving around, I've seen a lot of tree trimming. So in my message, I wanted to be able to say to the people, when are you going to be able to hook up? Not just when the cabling's finished, but when can you hook up in your district? And when will it be finished? So I thought I was going to get the answer last week. There was a meeting between Seaside and Eagle. I was told that they weren't confident in giving me the answer, so they needed to go back and talk some more. So that's where I am on that. So I'm working on that because I want, as we talked earlier in this meeting, I think people really want to know when they're going to get this high-speed internet. And I've received a message from a real estate agent on the same topic saying, you know, all the people wanting to buy a house, they want to know, are they going to get high-speed internet? When's it going to happen? So I've spent some time doing that. I've had a few meetings with councillors since the last meeting regarding council business. I had regular meetings with the deputy CAO during that period, from the last meeting until now, dealing with a number of issues that came up. So that's my my report for now. If there's any questions about that. Hearing, Councillor Cotw.
Have you been talking to anyone at Valley Waste or any communication there?
No. What part of Valley Waste are you talking about?
Well, just that I was brought to my attention that some things are changing within Valley Waste. And I just thought, I wonder if someone's been talking to them.
Nobody talked to me about it.
Because all of our supplies going to Scotia Recyclers, trucks were going to a scale in Berwick and being weighed. Product was taken to Scotia Recyclers, then the truck was going back to Berwick being weighed. And then Scotia Recyclers would get a report on what the weight was. And all of a sudden, a week ago, Valley Waste has decided that they're going to weigh our trucks now.
They're weighing our trucks?
Yeah, right at the site. So I just wondering,
No.
I wondered if it's a good gesture from them, hopefully we will come back and start communicating with them. If they took that on themselves to do that, to show their interest in it, or if someone had to talk to us.
Mr. McGinnis has his hand up. I'll recognize him.
We were notified by EFR of that change. Prior to that, we weren't allowed to access that scale. That's why we weighed. We had an arrangement with a third-party scaler that could handle it just outside of Berwick. I'm searching for the right word. I'm not sure of the intent of that gesture. Whether there is a piece of the math that they're missing in terms of perhaps a diversionary credit, I don't know. But in the meantime, as we evolve through this process, we're gonna maintain, at least for a little while, weighing in both locations. One, see if there's any discrepancy. There shouldn't be. All scales are under, I forget the agency, but it's a federal agency, Weights and Measures. So again, I don't know what the root of the request was, but the request went to EFR, not to the county.
Yeah.
I knew that happened.
Okay. Thanks. Councillor Hudson?
Yes, I can maybe just ask Mr. McGinnis. Is there not a scale in West Peregrine?
too small. We can weigh the curbside vehicles, but we can't weigh the transfer vehicles.
Any questions, more questions about my report? If not, then there are two other items on the agenda. The next is treatment of letters. I keep forgetting to move receipt of my report. Deputy Warden moves. Second, Councillor Longmire. Any other comments about my report? If not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion's carried.
If I can interrupt, Mr. Warden, you have paid for the coffee break that's prepared out there.
Okay. There's two. We've only got two items on the agenda. I think we'll motor through, and then if I see it snowing out,
We can pick it up on the way up.
and people can pick it up on the way out. Yeah. Yeah. Treatment of letters. Councillor Morrison, you put that on the agenda?
Yes, I did. Thank you very much. Ed Farron of EA Farron Limited sent on the 30th of December a letter to the warden and members of council outlining information with regard to financial negotiations, and that the founding principle had been picked and will be here over the course of the summer. And this letter was also sent to the Friends of Gordon's in Nova Scotia, and thus very early in the new year it was redistributed to about 1,000 people, and some of those people sent it on further. Council has yet to receive that letter. I would have thought that because of our interest in what's happening, we might have seen it before now. Is there any mechanism that we might be able to use to ensure that on matters that are substantive and with which we have been seized for quite some time, we could receive so that we know what the public knows?
I'll respond to that. I think that's a good point, well taken. I did receive it, and the clerk received that letter, and as I think I mentioned to you, the clerk acknowledged receipt and told Mr. Farron it would be dealt with on the next week in the committee and in the council meeting, because that's when letters are dealt with. However, I take your point, and I do feel that I should have, since it was addressed to all the councillors and to myself, and not just to the clerk, that I should have sent it out when received to all the councillors, and I take it that's the thrust of what you're saying. And I think that's well taken. I'll think of that in the future.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, Granville Ferry sidewalks. Councillor Bartow.
I've had numerous correspondence, emails, phone calls from residents. It's regarding the winter maintenance. They're saying that on the weekends it's not being looked after. I guess the practice to date, I talked to our engineer, was not to, but I noticed in our bylaws that there's nowhere that it states that weekends are not done. It says that the clearing is done, and in the operational part of the website I noticed it says anything of more than 5 centimeters and snow removal is done. I think that applies to the streets and everything. Their concern was it's an integral part of the community for getting around, getting your exercise, getting to the mail, getting to whatever. And as we all know, Granville Ferry Streets down through Main Street of Granville, that's Granville Road, that is through the community, that they also have concerns with the traffic and the speed and the safety. If you have a iced up sidewalk and they can't get on it and they're walking on the street, that increases that danger exponentially, I think. And that's a lot of their concern. As well, I had a concern on how the removal was done, and there was ice pellets beating on their windows on the house from the blower. So there's numerous concerns about that, and I think it was all related to the lack of clearing on the weekend, and when it was done, it was sitting there long enough that it caused other issues. I just bring that forward to see if we can address that and how that was budgeted, you know, and whether with our policies, whether we are not responsible to be doing it daily and not just cutting people off on the weekend.
Mr. McGinnis, is there any response to that?
I can't recall if I touched on it last council meeting. I don't think I did. The practice has been, because there is no service area established specific to funding a X level of service, a sidewalk, snow sidewalk removal, or even road plowing. The sidewalks, our practice has been, we don't send our staff out on overtime to clear sidewalks on the weekend. Councillor Bartow's discussion with me about some of the community feeling that would have been, sidewalks have been cleared in the past on weekends. We're not aware of that. I reviewed that with both our lead hand who works in the field, my operations manager, and myself in terms of our direction. We're not aware of it ever happening on the weekend, although I'll back up one phrase. It may have happened once when we had a severe ice storm. Probably sent some people out because it was a severe condition. But that hasn't been the practice in the past. Certainly since the improvements have been made on Granville Road through Granville Ferry, wider sidewalks, the moving of power poles, great project, and certainly achievable with the community support they had behind it. It's a lot easier to undertake those tasks. Before, the sidewalk was narrow, there was power poles in the way, there were torches in the way. It was very, very difficult. So if council wishes to review that level of service, give staff direction, I can prepare a report. What I can tell you is that the history is we had one piece of machinery that could clear sidewalks, and we clear sidewalks in Granville Ferry, in Paradise, and in Bear River. Bridgetown has their own equipment, their own staff, their own service area. And it would take us a significant amount of time, and in the director's opinion, too long to get to each of those communities, sometimes days. In the case of Granville Ferry and in Bear River especially, where there's no boulevard, when transportation, TIR would come through and plow, the only place for it to go is on the sidewalk. And when we couldn't get there on a timely basis, it would, in a lot of cases, freeze hard. And our equipment couldn't remove it anyway. Paradise is a little different. It's a narrower sidewalk and there's a grass boulevard. There's a little bit of storage there for snow when there's plowing. So in terms of Paradise, we instituted a contract for snow removal there so we could provide a timely service. And we just started Bear River this year because there's been significant comment about our inability for timely sidewalk maintenance in Bear River. Granville Ferry is the only one we don't have a contract on. Has there been service level creep? To a certain extent, because I felt we just weren't providing an adequate service when we couldn't get to a community in 2 or 3 days, either because of weather, a lot of it, a portion of it was breakdown of equipment. I think the piece of equipment that we have tried to do many things, both summer maintenance and winter maintenance. It doesn't do either that well, and it's not a very robust piece of equipment. So we're looking at that this year in terms of that replacement. And as I said, if council wishes to provide additional direction to staff, absolutely. I'll bring a report back.
Councillor Bartow, maybe that should be dealt with at budget time if you want to suggest a change in the practice?
I guess my larger concern right now is if it's to be dealt with, winter's upon us already. By the time we get through the budget time, winter's over, I guess. And we got lots of time to talk about it, but it's not helping them in the meantime. I'm not sure what flexibilities we have there. Apparently there's been contracts out for the other areas, so the machine that was being used for Paradise and Granville and Bear River must be only for Granville now?
Yeah, and if I may add, Councillor, if I can just interject for a moment. The situation we had this past holiday break, that piece of equipment was broken down. The four-wheel drive had locked up. So it was in the shop, and as everybody recalls, had a very mild Christmas, and then we had the snowstorm. And we got the equipment back that Monday to be able to provide service to that community.
Okay.
Budget time is March.
2 months away.
2 months away. And, can we make some considerations if we have some storm activity? Like, I don't think it's happening that they have to be out there every weekend anyway, but of course now that I've said that. I just want my constituents to be safe and reasonably comfortable with the situation. They got the approved sidewalks and now they can't use them when it's a storm, so. Not sure if there's any room in the budget to look at things in the meantime, and then we can deal with it with a policy.
I can't respond to that. I don't know.
Can I make a motion for staff to investigate that? Not to put a lot of extra load on. We're already loaded up pretty well, but.
Deputy Warden?
Thank you. As the director of our public works said, you know, the machine was in the garage getting fixed, in the shop getting fixed. And I can tell you, having a place in Granville, that the sidewalks in Granville, since they've been done a couple of years ago with new cement and stuff, they've been plowed pretty darn regular, but they did miss a couple of weeks ago there in that sudden snowstorm. But as I'm over there every day, and yeah, the sidewalks are usually done right up. And it's the same, I had a bigger problem a few years ago in Bear River, but we got that straightened out as well too. And it's mostly because in Bear River, the sidewalks were so narrow, our machine couldn't even do part, right? But, you know, they made arrangements. So I'm sure that Granville sidewalks will be kept clear. You can make the motion, but I'm sure they will be.
Okay, well, we'll keep an eye on it.
Thank you. Did you want to say something, Councillor Cotw?
Oh, I was just going to say, for many years working with the Department of Transportation, is that I can guarantee you, 10 minutes after the sidewalks are plowed, DOT's going down to plow the road, and they're going to put their snow over on that sidewalk. So, I mean, timing's everything, and if people can't understand that in the winter and they see what's going on, then, you know what, if they want them black, maybe they should go area rated and they can pay for what, they can have a guy stand there waiting for the plow to come up.
Okay, thank you. That appears to be the end of the...
Should we receive this for information where we got it?
What is it you've got?
That's that 2-page thing about the municipal meetings from
The one about committee meetings and all the ones that...
I'm not sure what it is.
Public health.
This one here.
I think it's a good idea to receive it.
This was circulated this morning?
Yes.
I haven't had a chance to look at it.
maybe Albert will take it.
I think it's just about COVID protocol.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if you got it.
Okay, so I guess it's for our information, so if we receive it for information, then we can take it home and read it? Is that, yeah, okay. Would someone like to move that we receive this for information? Councillor Prout? Councillor Longmire seconds. This is the report from Albert Dunphy. It appears to go to Linda Bent. It's from, I guess the original one is from Brian Orr to Albert Dunphy, and it's with respect to public health orders. All those in favor of receiving this for information say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion's carried. So unless there's something else, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Councillor Bartow moves. Second.
Is this something that we should receive?
The larger document was the background information on the Shell matter. That at a previous council meeting, I understand that council had asked for that to be distributed.
Okay, so this is just the background.
And at some point that will come back on our agenda. So I need a seconder for the motion to adjourn. Councillor Sheridan. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you.